2, 1. Live.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Recognizing a quorum of commissioners, I call the January 11, 2024 meeting of the Cannabis Control Commission to order. This meeting is being held remotely pursuant to Chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 and is being recorded. Commissioners Camargo, Stebbins, Roy, and myself are participating in today's meeting. All votes taken today will be by roll call. We have a full agenda today that I will generally summarize. We'll begin today with opening comments from commissioners. Then the acting executive director will present the acting executive director and commission staff report before we proceed to staff license recommendations. There are 3 change of ownership application recommendations, 61 license renewal recommendations, 6 provisional license recommendations, 7 final license recommendations, and 3 responsible vendor training renewals. There are 3 items in the commission discussion and vote section today: a model HCA review and discussion, periodic review of executive session minutes, and the election of commission secretary and treasurer. I will ask that commissioners wishing to comment or ask any questions during any part of today's meeting, please raise your hand to be recognized. With those initial comments, I'll turn things over to commissioners for any comments and or updates. And commissioners will go in alphabetical order. I will give my comments last. We will begin with Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo, good morning.
Good morning. Oh, the alphabetical thing, huh? So I have to go first. Well, first of all, good morning. Obviously, happy New Year, even though it's already a few weeks into the year. I know that this is a time for us to be able to speak to the public, to our team internally, and to ourselves. So I just want to say thank you for an amazing 2023. To my fellow commissioners, we have worked really hard and tirelessly to just get so much stuff done in the last few months. Our regs, the new policy matters that that we discussed towards the end of the year. So I just want to say thank you again. I know we said it at the end of the year, but you know, reflecting and being grateful for all the work that we're doing here. For me personally, I am starting my 4th year at the CCC. I'm excited. I've said this before. I love this job. I love what we do. I love what I get to do every day, and I get to work with really smart people at this commission. So I want to just say thank you. I also want to say that I hope that, you know, everyone's sort of done their goal setting and their sort of mindfulness and kind of just getting ready for this new year. I know it's going to be a year of implementation in terms of regs, and us looking at some other policy matters that I know a lot of us are working on. So for me, I will definitely, you know, you'll hear more from me when it comes to social consumption, along with my fellow commissioner Stebbins. I'll be working on the delivery policy that we talked about and voted on in December. I also appreciate everyone who sent me information in the industry around 2 drivers in general. I want to acknowledge that. I've received a lot of emails from other businesses that also have 2 drivers. So thank you for that. And I am reading emails. I'm also going to be looking at programming in terms of our equity programming, also our economic empowerment licenses. I've been talking about this for a few years now. And I'm hoping and making it part of my goal that this year I really want to look at our economic empowerment licenses, and our SEP programming and our equity programming in general. I know that our social equity program cohort 4 will launch on February 5th. So I think we'll hear more about that either later or next month, but I know that's happening. So I'm excited to just, you know, hear and see more around that. And yeah, and more to come. So, you know, some of the things that I'm focused on, and I think I said this too at the end of the year, but also being mindful that we have to take care of ourselves. We do so much work at this commission. And I think a lot of us have gone through trials and, you know, tribulations the last couple of months when it comes to health and family and all kinds of stuff. So I just hope that, you know, we can all also just be mindful and take care of ourselves as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good morning to my fellow commissioners and Happy New Year to all. I'm going to be a little long this morning, so I'm going to thank you in advance for bearing with me. With it being the first public meeting of the new year, I thought today is a great opportunity to share some of my focus for 2024. But first, I want to quickly reflect back on the previous year, including the tremendous work of the Commission to draft, finalize, and promulgate Chapter 180 regulations around municipal equity, host community agreements, and suitability. Approving as a body to make regulatory updates in the micro business and delivery license type in the next regulatory package. Today, I'm also very much looking forward to reviewing and discussing the highly anticipated Model HCA. I also want to recognize that this month is the 1-year anniversary of the implementation of Shifting Gears, the blunt truth about marijuana and driving, a curriculum that focuses on educating residents on the risks of cannabis-impaired driving. Along with Commissioner Stebbins, I was proud to help take the lead on this initiative, which is now being taught to over 50,000 students across 400 driving schools in Massachusetts. In following Massachusetts' lead, Rhode Island and Connecticut have taken steps to now provide a similar curriculum to be mandated in their driving schools. I want to thank Channel 5, our communications team, for having Channel 5's Chronicle come out to headquarters this week to highlight the curriculum. I also had the opportunity to join Chronicle at Worcester Technical High School yesterday to see Shifting Gears being taught to their students. It was such a pleasure for me to be able to speak to the students about the curriculum and the Commission. With a flip of the calendar, I also want to recognize all of our internal teams for their hard work during the past year, including all of I&E, which there's many facets of I&E, licensing, testing, constituent services, investigations, compliance, enforcement council, project managers, to our research team, our data analytics, IT, government affairs and policy, finance, communications, equity and community outreach, human resources, executive assistants, business and office managers and their staff, and our legal department. Serving as secretary, it has been a joy to work so closely with them. And please forgive me if I had forgotten anyone, and thank you all for your incredible work all year long. Moving forward in 2024, I will continue to focus on expanding access to our veterans and medical patients alike, advocating for reciprocity, expanding and advocating for research opportunities, and taking a holistic view at all license types in the industry as a whole for future policy discussions and votes with my colleagues. As I have served as the liaison to the Cannabis Advisory Board's research subcommittee, I also want to put an extraordinary emphasis on product testing. Potency inflation and lab shopping have been widely reported as a nationwide industry problem. Patients and consumers alike must have products that are accurate in testing and labeling in the regulated cannabis market. Anything short of that undermines public health, safety, and welfare. I want to commend our testing team, led by Director James Kosis, for their expertise and commitment to this mission and for working to ensure we have a safely regulated cannabis industry, including, most recently, their work around the first of a series of issued bulletins from the Commission, providing guidance for reporting cannabinoids, including uploading certificates of analysis to Metric, along with individual and total results for THCA, Delta-9, CBDA, and CBD, using specific calculations, which provide clarification, ensure consistency, and establish standards for our independent testing labs. As a regulatory body, it is important that we continue to provide our testing team with the regulatory tools they need to ensure accuracy in testing and compliance. Having said that, I want to share a few of the recommendations that came out of our research subcommittee and were voted on unanimously by the full Cannabis Advisory Board, including the recommendation to expand the Commission's open data portal to include open metric data related to lab testing, such as THC potency, fail rates, and certificates of analysis information. Another recommendation that came out of the CAB is to convene on an ongoing working group similar to the model in Colorado to review and make ongoing recommendations on rules and regulations related to testing and labeling of cannabis and cannabis products. Expertise of members of the working group could include a toxicologist, a microbiologist, a mycologist, a plant biologist, chemist, consumer, patient advocate, retailer, manufacturer, and cultivator. Another recommendation is for a renewed emphasis on the Commission Secret Shopper program. And finally, commence a feasibility study around the implementation of a cannabis standards lab in Massachusetts, as our friends in Vermont recently did. This past year, Vermont appropriated $1.4 million for a standards laboratory to hire 2 chemists, a lab director, and buy equipment for a cannabis quality insurance program, including 3 machines, one to test for pesticides and terpenes, another for potency, and a third for pathogens. Vermont's state-run testing lab will allow them to conduct their own tests, to conduct audits of results from their licensed labs, and serve as an industry-wide reference point for lab testing standards. I want to sincerely thank the Cannabis Advisory Board for voting on these testing recommendations, and in 2024, I look forward to exploring meaningful ways to ensure accuracy in testing and labeling with my fellow commissioners. I know I was super long, and thank you so much for my time today.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you, Chair. Thank my colleagues. Just as we're sitting here, first of all, Happy New Year to all my colleagues. Happy New Year to our team. Happy New Year to our industry stakeholders out there. I think there are many milestones we're going to expect and a lot of exciting work kicking off in 2024. Just hearing Commissioner Camargo, Commissioner Roy, I know you're going to have some thoughts, Chair. It's exciting to see our passion, our excitement, our energy that we're dedicating to the work ahead, and a lot of it driven by what we hear from the industry, what we hear from consumers, what we hear from patients. So it's exciting to hear us all talking about how we're going to jump into the new year. Just a quick update. Since our last meeting, I had the chance to meet with our House Cannabis Policy Chair, Chair Donahue, and some of his staff. Commissioner Camargo and I discussed our work on social consumption, wanted to get his thoughts and interests on the topic. Subsequent to that, I had a meeting with our Senate Chair, Chair Gomez, out in his district in Springfield. Always love a trip to Western Mass. Want to thank them both for their time, their interest, and their thoughts. Commissioner Camargo and I also had the opportunity to present an update on our work on social consumption to the CAB last Friday. Great to hear their input. We're actually in the process of scheduling some follow-up calls with individual CAB members who really were interested in reaching out and having conversations with our working group about their thoughts and ideas. So the work continues. I'm going to offer some more thoughts around diversity, positive impact plan during our renewal discussion, but I want to express appreciation for a comment I just read this week, a comment made by State Representative Cutler, who I don't know, but is, I think, joining the Healy administration's labor and workforce development team. He highlighted the state's disability employment tax credit, a state tax credit that mass employers can seek for providing employment opportunities for individuals with a disability. I wasn't aware of this credit, and it might be an opportunity for our licensees. So I've reached out to our appropriate colleagues in state government to see what information we can help disseminate. I want to add my usual note of thanks to our licensing team who meet up with me every month to review our pending list of renewals. We had some unexpected guests for our call this week, but greatly appreciate those meetings. I know another big topic of concern is sports fans across New England who are mourning the departure of Coach Belichick this morning. We're mindful of many of his famous quotes, but the one I enjoy, and it's not onto Cincinnati, it's all about just do your job. And I want to say how proud I am of our team who just continues to carry out their responsibilities day in and day out with such great focus and professionalism. I thank them for everything they continue to do. Coming up, have some visits planned to some of our licensees, going to be participating in a CBA roundtable toward the end of the month. And again, just excited about diving into the work in 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. You said something, and it's interesting because I almost feel like that's the theme. Do your job, because we had, as Commissioner Roy mentioned, We were visited by some members of the press. We did some really good some discussion and interviews with Channel 5. But one of the questions that was asked was, how is the Cannabis Control Commission responding to, the negative press or the negative comments that are sort of swirling or have been swirling? And my response was, we're working. Because we are, because we have been, because we continue to do it. And that's the reality. Every time we come here for our meetings, I think it's evident by what we're showcasing, by our different members from the team sort of going through the agenda, understanding sort of the licensing process, the overall structure of the entire agency. And I just think it's really fitting that you referenced Belichick, because it's like, what are we doing? We're working. And we're going to continue to work. But I promise you, I wrote down things that I actually wanted to include in my comments. But you said that, and that's right on. So I recently, and I know everyone who's here in the room, our staff knows, I sent out a communication just in terms of Happy New Year and, the work that we've done so far. But when I was going through this message and sort of compiling the information there, I just thought, wow, we've been busy. So I wanted to sort of reiterate some of the facts that I highlighted within there. So within my term alone, as Commissioner Camargo mentioned, we're entering our 4th year here as regulators. And there's something to be said about that, because we've been here for some really historic changes. And there are members of staff who are even in this room today, I'm looking at you, Kyle, who've been here longer than that, who sort of understand the historical significance of a few things. But within my term here, we've gotten a lot done. So we've had back-to-back summer sales records that underscore a $5.5 billion adult use marketplace. There's been a 32% increase in operating adult use licensees since last year alone, which means greater access for both our medical patients, for adult use consumers. There's been an expansion of the DIA list with the inclusion of Lawrence and the census tract that was also identified as well. There was the launch, Commissioner Roy, I got to tip my hat off to you for all of your hard work. The launch of the nation's first driver's education curriculum focused on the dangers of operating under the influence of cannabis. It was our largest ever cohort of the social equity program. And there was increasing numbers of those SEP businesses that are now moving forward and towards opening. There's been new responsible vendor training curricula and technical assistance for communities that have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs. We've had our first ever State of Cannabis event at the State House last year. I'm in the process now, working with the team and working with our counterparts at the State House to create this year's State of Cannabis event, because I think it's so important that we are available and that we're always, willing and able to answer any questions that come our way, and that we are within the State House to really just visit and be seen and be heard and make ourselves responsive. I think that's really key. There was also the fulfillment of our research mandates with Julie Johnson and her team, and a high-profile cannabis journal edited by our own team as well. And of course, there was the completion of the Chapter 180 regulatory changes that I've said time and time again was really an all hands on deck process. I'm looking in the crowd because I see people who I've worked with for months, and I'm so happy to see you all here today. But you all should be proud. Our team should be really proud. I'm proud. I'm really proud of the work, and that's what we do. I'm not surprised by it. I know we'll continue to do it, but we have some really phenomenal people here, and I'm lucky to work with so many phenomenal people. And of course, there's social consumption on the horizon. Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner Camargo have been doing a lot of work on that front. I should expand my screen so I can see you as well, Commissioner Camargo. But although I'm not a part of that working group, I can tell just by the updates that you provide. And understanding sort of the level of those communications and making sure you're taking the time to meet with different constituent groups and to meet with other jurisdictions. I just want to commend you guys, because I can tell that you're being really mindful about it. And I also wanted to note that criticism is not a bad thing. It's not. and we accept it. We have accepted it, and we'll continue to use it as a tool to improve the CCC as an agency in the industry overall. What we do, and the tough part is we have to sort of sift through what is actually constructive criticism and what is just sort of things flying around. But we'll continue to use it when we see that there's some really valuable insight that's being given. And finally, I just wanted to outline a few of the goals that I have in mind for the coming year. The top of mind, most important thing on the horizon is our executive director search. And that's something that is a entire commission decision. It's all of us are and plan to be involved in sort of outlining and developing what that looks like, what we're looking for. But I also look forward to providing an update to the public when we have a substantial update as well. And I also want to thank our acting executive director, Deborah Hilton Creek, for all of her work. The work that she's done is, I don't even know where to start, Debbie. Thank you, because you have gone above and beyond on so many fronts. And we see the work that you're doing, and I just want to thank you. And with that said, delivery is also on the horizon. We have to draft those. That was one of our conversations that we ended December with. Agent safety is something of mind as well. When we're talking about sort of what can we do to improve that, going through sort of the responses that we receive from DPH. And that's also one of the meetings that I believe our team is working on my behalf, just to make sure we can have that sit down conversation to sort of understand it a little bit better and improve what we can. So with that, I will wrap up my opening statements again by just saying Happy New Year to everyone. I look forward to the new year. I hope that everyone has gotten a little bit of rest, but it's back to it. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the acting executive director and commission staff report. So I will now turn things over to our acting executive director, Deborah Hilton Creek.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Looking forward to another great year at the Commission, and it's exciting times, and also looking forward for, some more major accomplishments, which, some of them are already underway. Just a quick update, Commission update. Our FY25 budget request was submitted to the Executive Office of Administration and Finance, and obviously, we're looking forward to working with the administration and legislature on getting another budget request passed. So hopefully we can jump right in once we get our new budget and start our new year, which is coming up pretty quickly. It might seem like it's 6 months away, but time flies, especially when you're at the Commission, especially in Commission years. The bulletin on telehealth consultation was posted. This was updated based on the December public meeting, and we hope that providers and patients will review it to find out how they can utilize telehealth to conduct initial clinical visits. The other update announcing our social equity program cohort application process is open, as Commissioner Camargo mentioned earlier. It's open on February 5th. An email notice will be sent to Commission stakeholders, and applications will be reviewed on a rolling basis. And in addition to that, individuals will be able to apply for the SEP on Mass CIP. And that's open on February 5th.
Madam Acting Executive Director, I have a question on the cohort. Is there any limitations on the amount of people that we are accepting?
I don't have that information at this time. I apologize for that. I can provide that information at a later time.
Okay, I see Commissioner Camargo's hand up and then Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Debbie, thank you so much for, I didn't realize you were going to make this as part of your announcement. So I kind of jumped the gun in the beginning, so I'm glad that you're talking about it. I actually was, and I was in the midst 2 days ago, Debbie, of sending you an email, and I did, and I'm glad I waited. But I was going to ask our equity team to meet. I wanted to just get, it's the beginning of the year, I wanted to check in with the whole equity team in terms of programming, sort of the strategic plan that we've been talking about. And I was hoping that we can meet with them, before the February meeting. And I'll take the opportunity now, obviously, to just say, if any, I don't know, I just recommendation, I think it'll be great for us, maybe, 2 by 2 in terms of commissioners, to meet with our equity team to just sort of get a very deep understanding of where we're at, what we're doing, what does the future look like for SEP, and just, a regular update. So I will be requesting that, and I'll take the opportunity to invite other commissioners to do the same, if my fellow commissioners want to be a part of that. And Debbie, obviously you as well, and anybody else, but I was gonna request that. So heads up, and commissioners, I'll keep you posted.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo.
Madam Chair, may I make a follow-up comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, so Commissioner Camargo, I think that's great timing, actually, because we've been having, a conversation around time to revisit the social equity program, time to relook at our goals, where we are, what our progress has been, and what goals we can set for 2024. So this is perfect timing. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, can I just reply? Debbie, if I'm happy to work with Kate and Grace to coordinate, and I'll reach out to Celia and just, coordinate for all of us. I think that it's a good time for it. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. And I agree with you. I think it's a great idea, and it's a good time to do that also. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Acting Executive Director Hilton Creek, for this update. I just have a couple of questions. I see in the packet that the email notice will be sent out to commission stakeholders, and I was just wondering, as commissioners, if we could provide ideas of who else we can reach out to. For instance, my background, I served, at the Worcester County Sheriff's Office. How do we reach out to, let's say, formerly incarcerated individuals who report to community outreach centers or regional resource centers? Can we work with reentry teams at the Sheriff's Department? What can we do to build out our outreach even further, and build our email list? And if so, can we provide suggestions into whom? And then secondly, when is the date of the class? Do we have that identified yet? And is it synchronous, asynchronous, or a combination of both?
Commissioner Camargo, are you responding to Commissioner Roy? Yes. Okay, Commissioner Camargo.
Well, more of a comment. And Commissioner Roy, good to see you. I'm not there, so I can't whisper to you, but just on the sense of how do we do more of the outreach? Thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's one of the reasons why I kind of want to meet with the team as well, and I think all of us will now, because Commissioner Stebbins and I had this conversation 3 years ago. How do we do some of that outreach that you're talking about? And we have an outstanding team on our equity team, so I want to know that as well. I want to know, who else are we reaching out to? Are we, what's the plan? What are we doing? So I think that those are really great questions for us to have with our team. I don't have answers for all the other stuff, but I just wanted to make the comment to you that that's exactly where sort of like my energy was, in terms of like, okay, this is happening February 5th, where's the outreach and what does it look like? So thank you for just saying that. And I agree with you, Commissioner Roy. There's so many opportunities, especially, I always say this, social equity programming. In the beginning, when I first got here, I'm like, licenses. But Commissioner Stebbins and I have been saying this since day one. There's so many other businesses that folks can be a part of through the social equity program. So we want to reach out to everyone and anyone that wants to participate. So sorry for the long comments, but I'm excited about the launch.
Commissioner Roy, did you want Debbie to respond?
Yeah, just so the enrollment is for how long, and is there a projected date when the class begins? or the trainings, Ian?
So unfortunately, Commissioner Roy, I don't have those answers for you, but these are
Okay.
answers that I can provide at a later date.
Sure.
So sorry about that.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Stebbins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Acting Executive Director, for the update. As Commissioner Camargo said, I think it's a great idea. It was kind of on my 2024 start to do list to have this conversation with the equity team. You know, we know from the last class that there was a number of folks who didn't make it into the last class for any number of reasons. So that there was already that pent-up demand for folks that wanted to be a part of the last class. So I know that'll be a great starting point going forward. And as Commissioner Camargo said, you know, what role can commissioners play? I think over the last few months, the last year or so, is we've heard from a number of local organizations that are happy to help us recruit, happy to participate, happy to host events. That outreach is important. And to Commissioner Camargo's point, you know, how can we restructure that ancillary category so that people understand what the opportunities there might be, as well as, you know, the management and the entry-level track for employment, just again, to expand the breadth of the program and really demonstrate what the opportunities are, I think is going to be important. So happy to piggyback or tag team, but we also might consider having the equity team at the February meeting to kind of walk through a lot of the details and kind of have a formal kickoff to the program.
Perfect. Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. So, commissioners, these are all great ideas, great comments. And again, we hope that we can put a plan together that is going to be more transparent in terms of, you know, what really is happening within the social equity program. And again, setting some goals to make sure that, you know, we're meeting our targets, that we are conducting concrete activities that will point us in the right direction and get us to where we're going. I think we're a little bit in the dark right now about, you know, where we are. I'm pretty sure that the social equity team will be able to provide some of those answers for us. So looking forward to getting that information for you.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, I don't see any other questions at this time. So go ahead. Yes, please continue.
Sorry. That's okay. I was going to say, I think we're on the next slide. Okay, hold on one second. I'm sorry. Okay. So this is really an update on the executive director search process. And I just wanted you to know that I have utilized a RACI chart form to sort of outline what these activities will be. And I think it was helpful or will be helpful for everyone concerned as they look at the RACI chart outline. On the left, we have the activities. First up will be establishing a search committee, and we look at timeline. And for the RACI portion of the chart, who is responsible, who is accountable, who is being consulted, and who's being informed. And these RACI documentation or the RACI individuals listed under each of these responsibilities will change or may change depending on the activity. If we change the activity, add an activity, pull an activity, then the RACI will change. So I just wanted you to know that. It's not going to change drastically. The activities and timeline we would like to follow. I must say that the timeline for recruiting an executive director, it looks like it's going to span 3 to 4 months. And as we go through the activities, you'll see why it will span that period of time. Now, There are some dates that are repetitive here for different activities. That just means that those activities will be occurring simultaneously. So again, the first step would be establishing the committee. We see who is responsible. CPO will be responsible and accountable. The HR team will be pulled into this, consulting with our commissioners. And just to make that clear, commissioners will be consulted individually or in teams of 2. And of course, we'll keep our chiefs informed and our commissioners informed. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the RACI documentation here. I will just go through the activities and timelines. You can follow with the RACI side of the chart. Engagement exercise with the chiefs and board of commissioners, week of January 15th, which is coming up next week. I know we have a holiday on the 15th, so hopefully commissioners and chiefs will hear from the HR team sometime next week, so we can start setting up a couple of meetings to go through the engagement exercise, which really entails taking a look at what commissioners and chiefs are looking at in terms of characteristics, skills, knowledge, understanding of the cannabis industry, the laws and regulations that we may need an executive director to have. We'll also be going through a procurement exercise. This is only if we decide that we are going to go with a recruitment contractor. At the point that we make this decision, commissioners would have reviewed all of the documentation, all of the plans regarding the recruitment of the ED. And then if we decide that we do need to procure an external contractor, we will do that at that time. I think an external contractor may be helpful to us. I am not recommending that we go through a consulting firm, but rather an individual contractor because of the expense. And I will provide more information about that to commissioners. The first draft of the executive director's job description has actually been completed. That will be reviewed, will be sent to commissioners for input, review, edits. And at that point, we will consider if it is ready to go to the February public meeting. Next slide, please.
Debbie, hold on. I just want to make sure there's no questions from any of the commissioners.
Oh, sorry.
before we continue. Commissioner Roy?
Sorry about that.
Could you just repeat about the job description? You said it's semi-complete or complete for our review. I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, there's a completed draft job description that will be sent for your review. The job description was completed. It's just in draft form right now.
May I ask, were there substantial changes from the original job description that's from how many years ago? 5 plus 6 years ago?
Oh yeah, great question. It's significantly changed.
Okay.
When the commission started 6 years ago, the job description was really very minimal. The role of the ED has expanded vastly since then. So you will be getting a copy of the new job description and also a copy of the old job description, so you can do a comparison. You can take a look at how this role has evolved over the last 6 years.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Commissioner Camargo, Commissioner Stebbins?
Thank you, Acting ED, for pulling this together. It's great to see it all kind of laid out. More of a comment around, or comment and a question about a recruitment contractor, and I appreciated your thoughts on this. You know, I have a concern or a comment. I don't necessarily want a selection of a contractor to slow our process down, so it just kind of keep that as a caveat out there. However, I think there is some value in a contractor, a recruitment contractor. There's a value that they can go out and probably do a much better job of teasing out individuals who might not have been thinking about applying for this position, might want more details on the process. And I think there's some value in there. Is that how you envisioned a contractor being able to support us in this search?
Absolutely. I think because of the level of this position that we're seeking to fill, that and also because we're a public entity, and the format for interviews with individuals who are interested and whom we select to go through the interview process, I think it would be a great idea for us to have an external contact, someone who can facilitate that process, talk about some of the fears that applicants may have about a public interview, and all of this can be occurring simultaneously while we are also doing a search. So definitely great value in having an external contact for individuals who may be interested in applying. It's going to be a very rigorous process, and so I think having someone outside will enable us to do a better job of selecting the right individual.
Commissioner Camargo.
Thank you. And Debbie, I think you, I'm only treasurer till this afternoon. So on my treasurer capacity, I'm just, I'm thinking about cost, and obviously we need to be able to find the right leader to, lead the organization. But are you going to get into cost a little later in terms of this contractor versus like a headhunter agency, because I know those things cost, but I think we all know this is a heavy lift of a job, and we have to find the right person, and like you said, someone be able to sort of coordinate a lot of that stuff. So I'm just curious about the cost and what you're thinking.
Yeah, so I think hiring a firm as opposed to an individual contractor may be a lot more expensive. Firms usually charge by the hour, and their rates can be anywhere from $300 to $500 an hour with a firm. With an individual, it may be more feasible for us in terms of a contract. We can do a flat rate. We can do a variable consult with the contractor where we only pay for services that are provided. So those are some of the terms that, we need to look closely at.
And may I?
Please.
Yeah. And Debbie, just so I understand, are you, how does this work? Are we as a body of commissioners and you as the acting ED going to decide what route we go on that? Or are you just recommending that we go with an individual versus a firm?
Yeah, so I can provide you with the information for both, and as we're having this dialogue, and then ultimately the commissioners will make a decision as to what route we take. This is the commissioner's hire, and so you have a lot of input in terms of our process and in terms of how we proceed, with engaging any external resources or how we engage internally.
And thank you, Debbie. This I know I'm going into a little bit of detail, but this is the time that we have for the conversation. Whether a firm or an individual, I'm assuming do they have to be state contractors?
It depends. It depends. We can look at state. We always do look first at state contractors, and if we don't find anyone within the state contractor resources, then of course we can look outside of that.
And more of a comment, but also I guess, yeah, kind of comment question, but obviously everyone who's in this industry has been looking at, the this sort of executive director, the next executive director. So if people are interested, do people are we like, I don't know, do people just have to wait through this process, right? In terms of how it's going to play out. Cause I'm just curious. I'm just thinking about the public and folks that may be interested and people that may start asking us questions, right? After this meeting, we start getting tons of questions, emails. What are we saying to folks that may be interested or may have a person, or, hey, this person lives in Colorado, they may be interested. What's the best way to sort of funnel that? Because I just have a feeling that we're going to start getting a lot of questions around this.
I agree.
Right. And I think for now, because we haven't really actually started the process yet, I think they can be directed to me. And in the meantime, as we engage an external, then I will hand that off to the external partners. I don't know how much interest we will get from out of state. I know we probably will get quite a bit of interest within Massachusetts and also within the New England states. So, but for now, if we do get any interest, they can pass it on to me. I will have a standard response for them, and we will keep, their information close until we decide if we're going with an external contractor. Then we'll give a warm handoff to the contractor, and the contractor can begin sourcing those candidates or applicants.
Thank you so much, Debbie, for that.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Before Debbie proceeds, are there any additional questions? Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Simmons?
I have some more, but it's kind of as we're going through the process.
Okay. Debbie, please continue.
Okay, thank you. So the engagement exercise will come the week of January 22nd, which means that, and this is for the general employee population, we felt that it would be a great idea for us to include the general employee population in terms of asking what they are also looking for in an executive director. The organizational culture is important to us. And so as we look at hiring an executive director, we felt like the entire organization needed to be involved in some respect, because we're all hiring a leader, so to speak. Completion of the ED search job posting will incorporate the exercises with chiefs and Board of Commissioners, and also with the employee engagement exercise. So all the information that we're going to collect over the next 2 or 3 weeks will be included in the job posting. I have developed a job placement tool, and actually it's really a document. It's a 6 or 7 page document that outlines, who we are, what the role is, where we're located, what we're looking for, characteristics, skills, personal integrity might be, at the top of the list for some of those things that we're looking for in the ED. And we hope that when we post that placement document, which will be something that will be very beneficial for the external contractor and also beneficial for our internal HR team, is that we're all going to be cognizant of what it is that we're looking for. We can answer any questions that applicants may have or candidates may have. So that entire document, in addition to the job description, will be very beneficial to everyone who's involved. Any questions on that?
Commissioner Roy.
Thank you. So on the completion of the job description, questions and scoring sheets. So we weren't here for the first iteration of hiring an executive director, and we all understand that it was done publicly, but I'm assuming just the final round is public, right? So like the initial, I don't know how many interviews it takes, but I just want to clarify that the first few are not in public. Is that accurate?
That's right.
Okay.
Once we get to the point where we have our, top 3 candidates, at that point, then it becomes a public interview. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. And I've also, just a quick comment on the completion of the job description. I've also drafted some job interview questions, which obviously the external consultant will review, and also Board of Commissioners will be able to review that. You will be able to edit, and you'll also be able to add questions of your own, because I'm sure you'll have some really burning questions that you may want to ask candidates, and those will be added as well. Posting and sourcing of the position, posting the position and sourcing candidates, that will come sometime in at the end of January, and the first week of February. So any adjusted changes that we might have in terms of internal structure, that will occur at that point as well. Identifying candidates in the first round interview will occur the week of February 19th. And
Wow.
schedule, sorry. It sounds aggressive, but remember sometimes
I'm sorry.
sometimes depending on availability, this may be pushed out. And so that's why I prefaced with three to 4 month. This is a 3 to 4 month process. It may take longer than that, depending on availability. Commissioner Camargo?
I'm sorry. I'm glad I didn't say nothing crazy. I was off mute and I was talking to myself. I said, wow. But I'll take the opportunity to just say wow, because that's great that we're thinking that we can identify candidates for the first round by February 19th, right? So I think when I saw that, I'm saying to myself, is it enough time for us to identify candidates? I know that folks that, we've all gone through situations where we're like, do we apply for this job? Do we not apply for this job? Right. So that's interesting. So I again, thank you for putting this together. And you've done a lot of work, and you're an expert in HR. So I have faith that February 19-ish date is when we're going to identify candidates. That's a big deal. So.
Yes, and it's only a month away. And as you mentioned before, we may start getting interest before we even post the role. And in addition to that, the commission has never been lost on getting, candidates. As soon as they hear, they're on us. So we, hardly ever have to go looking really hard. They will come to us. And this is one of the part about working in HR at the Cannabis Commission that I really, really appreciate is the amount of job applications that we get for positions that we've posted. We're very popular in the public. They want to come and work with us. They see the great work that we're doing. They see our accomplishments, and they're excited and want to be a part of that. So I really am predicting that we're going to get some really great candidates very quickly.
Awesome. Acting Executive Director, I believe Commissioner Stebbins has a question as well.
Thank you, Chair. Debbie, a quick question. See the schedule for the first round interviews and the schedule for second round interviews. Are you expecting, again, we don't know where candidates are going to come from. Are you comfortable with saying first round interviews might be virtual, but I would encourage folks that are going to a second round that those be in person if we can? Obviously, we learn a lot from human interaction in person as opposed to virtually. Is that part of your thinking, or any thoughts?
Yeah, I think the first round of interviews could be virtual. And I do agree that the second round should be in person because we will be picking or selecting the top 3 to move on to the third round. So it's going to be important to be face to face with those individuals with the second round interview process.
Thank you.
Welcome. So the first round of interviews will occur the week of February 26th and the week of March 4th. And I accounted for 2 weeks only because we don't know how many people and what the schedules will look like. And again, the timeline may change a little bit. If it's faster, then we're in trouble because that means we have a lot of work really quickly. However, I don't anticipate that it's going to occur very quickly because of schedules. Again, we may be pushing this process out 2 to 4 weeks. So instead of 3 to 4 months, it may be 4 to 5 months. I think we can accomplish this in a 4-month period. So we just will have to be on top of all of our activities to make sure that we meet that deadline or that target. Second round interviews, week of March 4th. Actually, that's an error. My apologies for that. That's actually going to be later. I'm sorry, identifying candidates. Sorry, I'm mixing both of them together. Identifying candidates for second round. The reason I dropped this in there is because in the event that we get additional applications and we think that we may have an individual or 2 that we have identified, we may want to drop them into the second round. And the only way that this happens is if we have a couple candidates that we absolutely have to interview. And so that's why that is in there. And it's also done for the third round. However, I'm very confident that once we get the applicants in, once we've identified our candidates, that we probably will get the cream of the crop, so to speak, very early on in the process. Schedule and conduct second round interviews week of March 11th and March 18th. Any questions on this slide? Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Are we there?
Yep.
Yes, we're there.
That's weird. Didn't change on mine yet. I'm sorry. Hold on one second. I'm gonna have to go to my other. Okay, here we go. Guess it's just delayed. Thank you. Identifying candidates for third round. And of course, again, we may get a couple others, but we would be identifying for the third round from the second set of interviews. And that's where we're going to get our top 3 from. Schedule and conduct third round interviews weeks of March 25th and April 1st. And as you see, we started in January, now we're into April. Hopefully by April 8th, the week of April 8th, we will have a decision and an offer, and we can make an offer for a new ED to start. And I would say possibly May 6th or May 13th. Now, that depends on the individual's current employment status. If that individual is currently employed, then if they're in, and obviously will probably be in a high level position, may require a 4-week notice to current employer. And it's typically 4 weeks for someone at this level. Any questions on this slide?
Chair.
Commissioner Roy.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the final round, which is that's the round that's in public, that's correct, with the commissioners? That's that final round?
Yes.
So I just need to
Yes.
disclose, I'm out of the country April 1st through the, and it's in my calendar, so I want to disclose that now so we can make adjustments if necessary.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Commissioner Stebbins?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. And again, thanks, Debbie. Appreciate your experience working through incredible tasks like this. So greatly appreciate it. I know you've been putting a lot of time and effort and thinking into this. Just a couple of thoughts, a couple of questions. Is there a role for our communications team in terms of helping to get the word out through traditional media sources, some of those kind of unique industry resources that might be out there that we can help, again, disseminate information about this opportunity and share updates as we go along? Is that part of the plan?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And all of the documents that we will use for this recruitment process will be posted on our website as well. So absolutely. The more, the broader we cast our role or this particular position, the broader reach we have for this role is the more successful we'll be in getting appropriate candidates.
Okay. The other points I want to make, more just comments, and Commissioner Roy touched on one of those. I think it's helpful that we're very open and transparent about the final interview being in public. That may, be a decision point that a candidate has to wrestle with in terms of whether they're going to essentially put themselves out there as a candidate in that final round, and need to be mindful that for some that might be a factor in whether they pursue this or not. But I want us to be clear with candidates that a final candidate or finalists for that third round interview, the interview has to be done in public so that this body can take action and make a decision on who the next executive director is going to be. Because obviously that public interview process is pretty challenging. Just in terms of the schedule, I really would like to make sure that we can focus on as quickly as possible making a decision around that third and final round interview, and when we want to make a decision, to tie those two events as closely as possible as we can, even maybe in the same public meeting. I would like to see that something we can entertain and consider. I do think it's important, Debbie, and I apologize if I missed this as you were going through the timeline. I'm hoping that there's at least one commissioner on the search committee. Is that your intention?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. My goal is hopefully to have 2 of you on the committee, on the search committee.
Obviously, we need to be mindful of open meeting law and things like that, but at least to have one, I think, is critical. The other thing I would just throw out there is, obviously, we've been going through an extensive amount of work on governance, and hopeful to have that wrapped up, because I would expect that any candidate considering this position who's mindful of the work, even though no details have come forth, but somebody who's mindful of that work, at least in hearing about it in the public space, it might be a helpful tool for us to make sure is in the hands of a candidate at some point in this process, so that they have a better expectation about the job and the responsibilities that come with it. So
That does make
just to throw that out there.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Debbie, on the column for responsible, in the row where the second row, schedule and conduct the third final round of interviews. It's my understanding that the commissioners interview publicly the candidates, or is that what happens? Or is there staff that ask the questions and we just are observers?
I'm sorry, Commissioner Roy, you broke up for a few
Oh, I'm
seconds there.
sorry,
Can you,
Debbie.
can you repeat that
Yeah,
question?
so I'm just wondering on that, the second row in the responsible column, should commissioners be responsible? And why I ask that is because if the third round is public and we are participating in that, are we therefore also responsible for that third round?
Yes.
Okay, so we would want to add commissioners in that as well.
And Commissioner Roy, you asked a good
Yeah.
question. You asked the question about if the staff will be asking those questions or if we are asking the questions
Yeah.
that we have. Debbie, I don't know if you want to respond to that. I feel like that's a commissioner decision, though. I feel like
Right.
that's up to us in the
We want
format.
to ask a few, okay.
But Debbie, I'll give you the floor if you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, no, I think that, you definitely will have the opportunity to ask the questions that will come from the commissioners. And there will be other questions, that staff can ask. I think I really would recommend that your questions be reserved to you instead of having, staff ask your questions. Is that where you were going with that?
Commissioner Roy?
I guess the whole process of the live interview, so if the candidates say sitting in this chair to my right,
Mhm.
are we the interview panel? Do we serve as the panel? And because it also obviously everyone has to have the exact questions, the same, we can't have disparate treatment, right? So everyone has to
Yeah.
have the same panel and the same questions. We want to make sure we do that properly. So I'm trying to envision this and to say that's the hot seat to my right or the interview seat. And are we the panel? How does it work?
Yes, you are the final round. So you
Okay.
will be the panel for the interviews, for the public interviews.
Okay, so so if there's three candidates and we are the panel, we have to ensure that we ask the exact questions to every candidate gets the same questions. Okay, yes.
The interesting thing about that, though,
Great point.
The fact that it's in public. So if we're asking the same questions to all candidates, that means that there's an advantage for some and not others. So maybe we'll talk about that and how to make it more equitable. Maybe they all receive the questions beforehand. But yeah,
That's a really good point. Yeah.
Commissioner Camargo?
Right.
Thank you. I'm thinking out loud. But I'm also gonna, I may just go, I don't know if when we hired our first executive director, I don't know if it was recorded or if there was I may just go back myself and kind of look and see what that process was like, if that was part of the process, because we had our first executive director, so things could be a little bit different. But I know that there's folks on the team that were here during that time, so I hope that we can check in with folks on our team too to kind of get some recommendations. But I think, Debbie, you had said that 2 commissioners would be part of the committee, and I'm sure Acting Chair Concepcion, you'll figure it out. But it would be good for us to start knowing who those commissioners are so that we can plan accordingly, because this is going to take a lot of time on the calendar. And I'm also glad, Commissioner Roy, to your question, that we are also part of the public interview panel, so that if whoever's not on the committee still has the opportunity to really ask some deep questions throughout this process. So just some thoughts.
Thank you. Madam Chair, may I make a follow-up comment?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I think that it's going to be a little bit challenging in terms of the public interviews with the final panel. I think it's doable. By the time we get to the third round, we should know the candidates very well. We would have gone through 2 previous interviews with these candidates, maybe. And then I think for the third and final round, that can be structured so that you have all the individuals on site at the same time. And so you can schedule your interviews. It shouldn't take more than an hour or maybe hour and a half for each one. So we can invite everyone in at the same time. And then as they interview, they can leave. That way they won't have, any access to the interview questions while one candidate is being interviewed. Obviously, we'll probably have to ask them to check their phones because so they won't be able to have access.
Okay, that's helpful.
But we can think of some other ways
yeah.
to make it work.
Debbie, Commissioner Stebbins also has a follow-up question.
Yeah, no, I think Debbie, you just touched upon it, which is, we should do all the finalists in the same day. So somebody's not hanging out there, obviously, after being interviewed in public. And, again, when I was at my previous job, we did have multiple candidates for a final interview. We stuck them in a room so they couldn't hear the questions. I don't think we went as extreme as confiscating their phones. We want them to certainly, we're hiring a professional and hopefully they would abide by that. But yeah. I think there's a way to do it all in one day, give us all a chance to ask the same questions and, allow our next leader to be able to think on their feet in terms of being able to respond to our questions. So appreciate you saying that.
Commissioner Camargo.
I hope that this is going to be helpful to the public and that we're also not scaring candidates away, because this is definitely a hefty process. But I think how we're outlining it now, Debbie, allows us to start getting the message out. And I think Commissioner Stebbins, you said it earlier, sort of working with our communications team. And I think you said it, or maybe it was around SEP, but either way is just sort of like educating the public now of what this is going to take. And for the individual that may be sitting at home right now thinking and friends chatting with each other and saying, hey, you may apply for this job, and for folks to know that this is a long process, but also a very intensive process, as much as the role is itself, right? It's a very, it's an internal and external position. So this is just very helpful, especially that whoever it is, like you said, may have to take, maybe like a 4-week break in between from their current job to this one. So I just appreciate this process right now.
Commissioner Roy.
Thank you. Debbie, I just want to commend you. This is so thorough and thoughtfully done and so transparent and helpful to us as commissioners. So I just want to thank you. You can see the time and effort you put into this, and it's greatly appreciated. I want to thank you.
I'll echo that. Absolutely. This is very clear in the way that this is outlined. And I hope for anyone who is watching who might be interested, it's also a tool for them as well. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. And now if there are no other questions, I'll turn it over to Kyle Potkin, our Director of Licensing, to update us on Chapter 180.
All right, Director Potman.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Executive Director. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, Commissioners. We do have an update for you today regarding Chapter 180 regulations implementation, which is in full steam and running fast, very aggressively, I would like to add to, and very collaboratively. I'm here for your consideration and what has been presented to our working group, the project team members and our project coordinators from almost every single team within the commission, is an identification of key dates and milestones. The phase 1, and we did break these out into phases, primarily based on certain deadlines that are outlined in your regulations that were just promulgated. So we had to prioritize certain things based on timelines in the regulations. The first big milestone is that March 1st, 2024 date. That's important to kind of expound upon, is that is the date that is set out in the regulations where the commission will start reviewing, certifying, or issuing notices of deficiency or requests for information on HCAs submitted in new license applications and renewal license applications. It also does touch upon changes of ownership, potentially, changes of location. So that is the date, March 1st, where an applicant who is submitting an application or a licensee who is submitting a renewal application or a change application will be prompted to submit a compliant HCA pursuant to the commission's new regulations, or a compliant HCA waiver, which is an available option. That is the first key milestone. So right now, the working group, the implementation working group, is focusing and prioritizing a lot of our deliverables around HCAs. One of those will be discussed later on today, which is the model HCA template. But it's not just that. It is things like compliance documents. How do licensing staff, investigation staff, enforcement counsel staff, how do we assess these? What is our standard operating procedures for assessing these? And if something is potentially problematic or it is non-compliant, how does that work its way through a standard operating procedure so that we are handling everything consistently, which is what we always strive to do. Big part of that is our outreach to our constituencies, and that is primarily led by our communications team. Other things include updating of guidance documents, and I will be the first one to tell you that right now, while we've been talking, I'm multitasking and I'm amending the guidance on licensure. So we're all wearing a couple of different hats going on here right now. But it is a host of different buckets that we have identified. But right now, we are primarily focused on everything HCA related. That doesn't mean that we're not doing anything else in any other phase. For example, there might be, and because of our team and the camaraderie that we have, there are some teams that will not necessarily have, at the end of this journey, anything really to deal with HCAs. And I'm going to say it, and I'm going to apologize, but I know she'll forgive me. But and I know, as I'm saying it, I know I'm probably making a mistake because she'll end up having to do a research study on this. But Dr. Johnson and our research team, which is a fabulous team, but I bring her up because she is so giving and so open to giving and assisting us on anything, whether it's going to be in her bailiwick at the end of this or not. So that might be something that there's a deliverable that falls under municipal equity. Let's say maybe that standardized form for municipalities to assess whether they're meeting their municipal equity standards on issuing HCAs. Tangentially, she's been in the area of doing surveys before, so maybe that's something that she could take a first crack at on behalf of everybody else. So we're having a little work equity going on and trying to handle multiple things at once. And again, I apologize, Dr. Johnson, but thank you, Dr. Johnson. But we're trying to use our resources, our human resources, our team, the tools that we're using, and we're trying to get ahead of everything as much as possible. But I'm not going to lie, the first big thing is HCAs. Phase 2, which is our municipal equity standards, there is a requirement in your regulations, and this is primarily not something on the commission, it's something on our municipalities. And our municipalities have to adopt ordinances and bylaws based on certain municipal equity standards subject to, and I hope that's right, I think it's 935 CMR 500.1813. So just, if I'm wrong, there's a section that applies. And in that section, there is a subsection that talks about municipalities having to comply with passing those ordinances or bylaws, attesting to certain things, supplying the commission and notifying the commission with certain plans. That date is, they need to have those things in place by May 1st, 2024. With that comes the same type of, the same buckets of different things. of the outreach to our municipalities and our constituencies, so on and so forth. So our goal is to have everything in line and everything ready to be executed or set up for that May 1st date, even though it's not a requirement on necessarily the commission. We do take our relationship and our duty to our constituencies seriously, and we want to provide people for success. So that is where we will start working now on that. But that is the second big milestone that's set by regulations. The third phase is another big bucket, but there was no deadline that was.
Commissioner Roy?
I have about phase 2. Is it okay to ask now?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Director Potvin. So my wheels are just turning with phase 2 and municipal equity, and then the previous presentation by Executive Director Hilton Creek about the social equity cohort. And I'm wondering if there needs to be a meeting between your team and the social equity team to inform the participants about the new municipal equity laws and their rights under the laws. So I'm just wondering if that at some point when that class is ready to be taught and the curriculum is being built, that we teach to that so they know.
Absolutely. And one of the plans with like the communication and the outreach strategy are not just press releases. Hey, the commission is announcing this, but one of the big things is bulletins to the industry. And the bulletin is more of an informative tool of saying, hey, this is how it should look like. These are what the new rules of the road are. And I think that could definitely be incorporated, and I would be happy to have a conversation with our Director of Equity Program and Community Outreach, Celia Williams, on that. I know she would too, not to speak for her, but that is a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Moving on to phase 3, which is our community impact fee certification process. As was discussed during the regulations promulgation, is that this was something, an authority that was given by statute to the commission, but was not something that was mandated for the commission to undertake. However, in the host community working group led by Acting Chair Concepcion and Commissioner Roy, one of the factors and one of the things that we heard a lot about is, what if I want to dispute my community impact fee or my alleged community impact fee that the municipality is saying? Or what do they have to give me? Do they have to give me a line item invoice of everything that is, reasonably related to the operation of a marijuana establishment? Or do they get to just pull a number out of thin air? We heard a lot of those things, and we heard it from a lot of different constituencies, and we heard it from a lot of different sides. But one of the things that the body did ultimately decide upon is that we were going to, as a matter of policy, have a step in between the have a step where the commission and commission staff were to certify a community impact fee or alleged community impact fee before they would have to go through a more arduous process of going to a district court or superior court, whatever court had the jurisdiction over that, it was outlined in Chapter 180 as that is the step that you can take. Going to court is not easy. Going to court it's time, it's money, and it's difficult. It's difficult for everybody. So with this policy, there's a step in between where they can come to us, staff can certify it, staff can do almost like line item vetoes. This cannot possibly be reasonably related to the operation of a marijuana establishment. And we could do line item vetoes, and ultimately we can notify the municipality, inform the licensee, hey, your alleged community impact fee that you said to us was $100,000. We reviewed it. In our opinion, we're certifying $80,000. So there are policies in place that describe all of that in the regulations. But that is, and the more I look at it, it is a bigger undertaking on the training aspect, training staff, doing the assessment, making sure that we're doing it consistently, because every city and town is going to have their own different way of how they're going to do things. We want to try to bring as much consistency and predictability into this process. That is why this is an entire phase. And this is why it's going to happen after the first 2 deadlines that are in the regulations, because that's when the time we're going to have to focus on it. again, that doesn't mean that we're not going to start doing little things here and there at any time between now and then. But that's just how we identified it as a major phase in this process.
Director Potvin, I have a couple of questions about this phase in particular. I guess the first question I have is that June 1st date, is that when the team will begin the certification process?
So I was really careful with the language that I put in on those deadlines. As you can see, the first two no later than, because obviously that's a mandate by the commission. Mm-hmm. And things come up all the time. The goal here, the target here is that no later than 6/1/24, we will start doing that. Yes.
Okay. And then my other question, I know your team has a lot on your plates. I know that the changes now, the mandatory changes that our agency is going through means a lot more, a lot more work. So I want to ask you about capacity. I wanted to ask you sort of about how you guys are looking, and I guess I feel so many different ways, but I just have to ask, because I know it's a lot, and there's a lot of you who are doing a lot of hard work, but just can you kind of give us some insight into that?
Yeah, yes, I can. And I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, because I think during the regulatory discussions that we had, and I think that 1 week blast that we just kept on going each day, I wasn't shy about it, and nobody's ever accused me of being shy about it. We have our licensing team, but our I&E team, but not just our I&E team. I'll take the opportunity to talk for our commission staff, because I'm engaging with them more and more on this implementation process, and because we don't work in a vacuum. Right now, this implementation, just the implementation of this is all extra work that people are putting in on top of their day-to-day jobs. It's something that we've all come here and we have all been dedicated towards this cause of this mission of this commission. And we're happy to do the work, but there comes a point where you can have, delays. People get a little burned out, get a little tired. And we're trying to factor that in as much as possible with staying with these goals. That's why we have targets. But generally speaking, I can say that the licensing team and the I&E team and the commission staff are all dedicated towards this. They're all dedicated public servants that are going to try to meet these goals. But it is something that I think we have to be very cognizant of and be really honest with, is that this is additional work. So I say that, and I try to be honest, and I try to be, at least in this space, I try to be an advocate for what I'm hearing, an advocate for what I'm seeing, and people that I've worked with for years. So we got to be mindful of burnout, but we also got to be mindful that there's a lot of new policies that are going to need to stop being enforced, a lot of training and a lot of change, which that in itself is going to bring some challenges. And a plan never goes as expected, but we're going to try to do it, because that's what the staff here do. They, like you said earlier, Chair, we get to work.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Director Potvin, and thank you for saying that, because this is an enormous undertaking that you and your team and commission staff are going to have to do. And please advocate. If we need to reallocate resources or whatever, please speak up. We are here to support you. This is an enormous undertaking. The $1 billion question has been reasonably related since the inception of the law. And now we have a definition and a team that's going to call balls and strikes on reasonably related, and reviewing these contracts. And so thank you in advance, and thank you for everything your team has done. But we're here to support you, because we know this is massive. So don't be shy if you feel that we need to help.
Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Wright, but I appreciate everything that everybody's. I really, really want to stress that it is this is also been an all hands on deck process, not just the drafting and promulgating of the regulations, but everything that comes after. And so far, I have seen nothing but full-throated support and from my colleagues, from every single team, from the acting executive director, all the way down, including sometimes commissioner reaching out to me. Hey, I'm here if you want me to help. It's been all hands on deck, and I really appreciate the support, and I'm going to try to continue to be honest and straightforward with you when asked those questions. And thank you for continued support.
Please continue, Director Kaufman. Oh, I see Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo?
Yeah, thank you so much. Director, are you done with this? Because I have questions. Should I go to the slide?
I'm done with phase 3. I'm done with the middle part of this slide. I have 2 more phases that I think will be quick, and then there is 1 more slide. But I'm happy to answer your questions now, if that's okay with the chair.
No, we'll wait till you're done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So continuing on, phase 4 is another bucket here is pre-certification and amended agent registration applications. Some clarity around this. So the commission through policy previous to this most recent promulgation had a pre-certification process that was set out and available only for delivery and through regulation social consumption. And that was because of the exclusivity period limited just to businesses majority held by social equity participants and economic empowerment applicants. While this was not part of the Chapter 180 session statute that mandated that this be expanded based on municipal equity, based on expanding the capability of having this pre-certification available for all license types for the populations of people that might need it more, to be able to take that pre-certification paper, go to a municipality and say, hey, negotiate an HCA with me, regardless of license type. The commission through policy expanded the pre-certification process still just to those same populations, businesses held by a majority of social equity applicants, social equity program participants, and economic empowerment priority applicants, but expanded it to every single license type that the commission has. That is because, again, not being a statutory mandate, because there's other deadlines and things that based on what we have heard are priorities from the commission and based on the discussions that you had, we put this into phase 4. This is also very highly technical. This is something where we have to leverage our licensing system, Mass CIP. And if, just for clarity, every single one of these phases so far have significant parts with Mass CIP. So we're also being considerate, not just of bandwidth of staff, but bandwidth of our vendors, and making sure that we're thinking this out logically. The other part of phase 4 is amended agent registration applications. This, again, is not something that was necessarily mandated by some changes, but we want to make this process a little bit more efficient for marijuana establishments and MTCs to apply for agent registrations, reduce uploads of documents, make it more, hey, one-stop shop into Mass CIP, but also because this is the reason why this has been grouped into the Chapter 180 is because on the applications, we ask certain questions about background check events. And because Chapter 180 reduced and eliminated barriers regarding criminal offenses, we don't want to trip applicants up by saying, why are they asking me this question if this is not going to be held against me? So we do need to clean that up. But when we do that, we're going to try to take advantage of that opportunity and make the process even more efficient, just from a wholesale perspective. And thankfully, Derek is going to be leading that charge, and Derek's here today.
Thank you, Derek, in advance.
Very well. You knew that, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Go, Derek.
So, and again, with that, all the normal communications outreach, every step making sure we're being transparent about this process, making sure we're educating the public or informing the public as much as humanly possible. And again, that's all going through some of our subject matter experts, but being funneled through our communications team like everything else.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Director Potvin. I'm wondering in phase 2, since that's the municipal equity phase, that we should implement Director Giancola and his team as the team that communicates with, I'm sure that we're going to get questions from municipalities, right? So how do we bridge that? And is it Director Giancola to work directly with questions from municipalities?
So the municipal equity is, there's compliance elements to municipal equity, and then there's government affairs with municipal equity.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we have to be very careful of where those things live. Will the Director of Government Affairs and Policy be involved in some way, shape, or form with communicating with municipalities and government officials? Yes, that's his job, 100%. But the roles between compliance and government affairs is something that we have an idea of how that should play out. And that's something that we'll be working towards during that phase.
Okay.
And lastly, phase 5 is our target for everything else. And that is anything that's kind of just a catch-all. That is the day where we hope that, hey, we're going to that is the day where we're going to celebrate and, throw our hats in the air. We graduated and hope that we can have this all wrapped up in a bow. And that those miscellaneous things would be maybe things that we couldn't get to certain timeframes, maybe some SOPs or maybe some updates to our website, prioritizing the buckets, prioritizing the work within the buckets, prioritizing the things that we need to make happen to make these regulations and these policies come to life. And if there are some things majority-wise internally that we need to have that catch-all phase, that's why we have phase 5.
Okay. Commissioner Camargo, did you want to ask your question now that we've gone through all phases?
Well, no, I don't think he's done with the whole presentation, so I'm going to wait.
Director Potvin?
Can we go to the next slide? Thank you. I think this could be quick. This is more of a kind of, the commission received an update at the December public meeting of what had been done up to a certain point. This is what's been done since that point. And this could have gone on for 5 or 6 slides, but this is very high level. Happy to answer any questions. But first is that the draft model HCA was finalized and it's ready for your review today and discussion, and it is coming up later on in the day. We did hold a kickoff orientation meeting with our project team on December 20th. It was supposed to be scheduled for December 18th, but that was a day that we had a lot of snow and rain and everybody lost power. So probably wouldn't be a good idea to do it on that day. So we moved it to December 20th and it was a great meeting. We have a charter and we have a standard operating procedure for this project, how things are going to flow for each type of deliverable, whether, how it's going to flow. And this is something that we haven't necessarily had in prior implementation rounds, but this puts our entire team and almost the entire agency on notice. Hey, we're going to assign it to this team. It may need to go through a legal review. It may need to go to our digital team for formatting. Some things are going to be approved by department heads, chiefs, the AED. Some of these things need to go to the commission, i.e. the model HCA before you today. Here's how you're going to communicate. Here's how we're going to communicate with each other. Here's how we're going to function as efficiently and as appropriately as possible. So the SOP, I think, was a great addition to this, and it sets us all up for our continued success. As stated at our last meeting, at the commission's last meeting, there was about 150 or 100 something deliverables identified. There have been about 20 other deliverables identified since then. Some easy, some not so much, some that requires outside vendors, but they keep on coming in, which is, I think, a tribute to the staff trying to be wholesale about this and trying not to allow anything to fall through the cracks. And this is why every single team within this agency was originally invited for this input, is because they have a unique perspective on how their particular shop operates. The regular weekly meetings have been set up to have subject matter, administrative, and due date discussions. The first of these meetings occurred on Tuesday. There's going to be essentially a subject matter Q&A meeting every Tuesday, and kind of an administrative due date meeting between Roque, our project facilitator, and our project coordinators, making sure that things are flowing on Thursdays. Many of our initial deliverables for this project, all of these buckets, they started going out this week. So our team has been already been notified of a lot of things that they're going to be responsible for, whether it's part of phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, so that even if for some reason they're not part of phase 1 and they have something on phase 3 and it's that June 1st date, we're getting ahead of it. We're going to try to get the ball rolling on it now. And if we can deliver sooner, we can. If there are delays, we're going to be honest about it. But the goal is, let's be as transparent. Let's plan for success as much as possible. And with that, that is the end of the updates on Chapter 180 right now.
Thank you, Director Potvin. Thank the entire team. Thank you guys so much. And I cannot say that enough. I've had the luxury on being on multiple working groups and working with so many of the people who have put in so much time into this. And it's really been incredible to see and speak to and understand the entire work process and the thoughtfulness that goes into it. So I know I've said it time and time again, I probably won't stop saying it. I'm just really, I'm lucky to be a part of this organization and to work with you all. So thank you for that update. Commissioner Camargo, please.
Yes, thank you so much, Chair. Ditto on all that, except that I didn't work on the 3 committees. Director Kyle Potvin, I can't see you, so I know you're not hiding. You're just, you're there. But I think I have a question for you, not related to this. And I think you may know what the question is, because I think you've become a good mind reader. Oh, I could see you now. Thank you for coming on. And this is great, and thank you for this. I would love to hear, because we're in the update section, any update on the model equity ordinance that we also talked about in the regs. So can you update us and educate us on that? And I know it's a process, but I just want to also make sure that we have an update on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Camargo, that's an excellent question. And it is an identified deliverable. So it's not something that was missed or overseen. It is known, and it would more appropriately be, if I had to put it into a phase, it would be phase 2. As far as our municipal equity, it's potentially something that one of those things that we're going to get ahead of, because I know with that May 1st date applying to municipalities, they might be looking to us for what that model looks like. So it is one of those deliverables that 1 has been identified, 2, I would like to get ahead of, and 3, most likely than not, is something that will be assigned within the next couple of weeks to whatever team is most appropriate to start that work. Again, taking into consideration HCAs having to come first, everybody playing a part, and work equity. But that is 100% an identified deliverable, and it will be something that I think will eventually have to come to the commission for a vote, just like this model HCA, based on the fact that it's in the regulations as such.
Got it.
Director Potvin, so there are a few things that are going through my mind. I'll share all my thoughts, because myself and the other commissioners here today, we sort of went through what our priorities were for the year, but obviously Chapter 180 takes, front seat. It's the priority. I guess I wanted to, maybe it's more of a comment than a question. I just want to make sure that the staff members that are taking on that additional work, I just want them to feel, empowered and okay coming to us and letting us know, if there's something that we're working on. And they're also doing the Chapter 180 work as well, and having that on their plates just to let us know, please. And we can sort of reassess and sort of kind of realign the way that we're functioning, so we're not creating this overlap and excess work for people as well. So I just wanted to make that comment.
Madam Chair. Yeah. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I just want to say, Kyle, thank you so much for that update. I didn't have the opportunity to say thank you. So thank you. And then Commissioner Roy, I think to your comment a little earlier in terms of Madge and Cola and sort of like comms and stuff, it just sort of made me think a little bit. And Madam Chair, you talked about this earlier. We're having the State of Cannabis event at some point at the State House. So I think also, and I know you guys are working on the agenda, but I think it's a good opportunity to educate our lawmakers on Chapter 180, what we're doing. I'm sure Matt is going to be on this, but communicating with the MMA, and so on and so forth on some of this stuff in terms of how to get this out to the wider audience. So I just kind of had that thought when Commissioner Roy made her comment. And again, Kyle, thank you, and thank you to the team.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. And I agree with you. And that will be something that's included. And also, this isn't a singular thing. I know that sort of spearheaded the State of Cannabis, but it's for the entire commission. It's with all commissioners involved. It's for us all to engage. So if there are things that any of us think need to be highlighted, let Director Giancola know, and we can sort of fold that into what is being presented.
Okay, that's actually helpful. Thank you so much. It's a good reminder and also helpful. Thank you.
Yep. Commissioner Roy?
Do we have a date for the state of the?
Not yet. So when I do, I'll share it as soon as possible.
Okay, and when should we start making suggestions to Matt?
I think I don't want to speak on behalf of Director Giancola, but I don't believe any time is too soon. And like I said, I should have a couple meetings coming up soon. I know we've been communicating with both the Senate and House Chair of the Cannabis Committee. So I will have that conversation. So there's a few things that are in the works. Is the finalization of the date, and then the agenda is an ongoing thing. So I don't believe it's any time is too soon, honestly.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, Director Potvin, was there anything else that you wanted to state before wrapping up this section of the agenda?
I can't say it enough, and I'll say it again. I just want to thank all of my colleagues for their collaboration, their support, their willingness to continue doing the work. Like you said, they show up every day, they do work, and they do more work, and they do it because they're dedicated to the mission, and appreciating them it can't be done enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Potvin. I see our acting executive director. Is there anything else that you wanted to add during this component of the agenda?
Yes, I'd just like to thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to say thank you to Director Potkin for all his work and for leading this project. And we're so happy that he's taken this on. He's doing an excellent job and look forward to more to come. Thank you.
Thank you. So if my fellow commissioners do not mind, I think it might be time for a little bit of a break. What's your recommendation in time? What do you think?
Either we take a quick bio or we do a lunch, whatever you think is most appropriate.
Let's do about a 10-minute break. We'll do a 10-minute break. So I'll do a little bit more than that. Yeah, 10. So we will recess for 10 minutes just for a short break and then reconvene after, and then we'll go through our licensing component.
Madam Chair, I'd move that we adjourn for a 10-minute recess.
Is there a second?
I'll gladly second.
Okay, I'll do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are recessed. I know.
Hey, you guys are having too much fun without me. What's going on over there?
We're just talking about you.
That's the fun part.
Okay. Ew. Are we live now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we're back from recess. We stopped right before Derek Oberlin's presentation on behalf of licensing for staff recommendations on licensing. So, Derek, I will turn things over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioners. Today we have 3 proposed changes of ownership to kick off the meeting for the Commission's consideration today, and Commission staff recommend review and decision on the proposed ownership changes before you. The first up for change of ownership, the licensee here is Aspen Blue Cultures Incorporated.
Wait,
I'm sorry.
there's a
Oh,
presentation on the
sorry.
licensing data first, was next.
Apologies.
Okay, so Director Potvin, are you doing the presentation for that?
I was planning on.
Okay, so, Derek, pause there. We'll come back. Director Potvin, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and apologies about any confusion. I guess the next part of the acting executive and staff report is high-level review of the licensing data that we bring forward to the commission on a regular basis. Here are some highlights from the licensing data, and the first one is a particular prideful moment, I think, for my team. And since this data was analyzed by our friend here, Derek Chamberlain, applications have come in, but when he got his snapshot and he was doing his data analysis, there were 0 applications awaiting a first review. For industry participants and the commission and the commission staff know that that has come a long way from 4 or 5 years ago. This is just a simple way of saying we're keeping up to date. People are hearing from us. Things are being turned around as efficiently and timely as possible. There are 12 applications awaiting a supplemental review. Those are applications that have received a first review and the applicant received a request for information based on something that may not have been fully compliant or something that was just deficient. And they have resubmitted their application based on that RFI notice. There are 6 applications for your consideration today for provisional licensure, and there are 7 licensees that are seeking final license consideration from you, the commission today. Next slide, please. Here is, again, another high level of the applications that have been approved by the commission or a delegation to the executive director, that delegation here being pre-certified and delivery endorsed micro businesses. But these are applications that have been approved and at what stage they are at. The big takeaway here is that the number of commenced operations, the number of licensees that have commenced operations is now 616. That is a 33% increase over last year. And speaking based on that percentage of increase that has been talked about in previous meetings, that number seems to be staying consistent between 33-36%. So that progress continues steadily, meaning that licensees are continuing to get to that stage on a regular basis after their inspections from our investigators and our compliance officers. And that is moving steadily. Places are still opening and getting that commence operations notice. Next slide, please. This is, as has been categorized since its inception, the pizza chart, the pizza tracker of every license type, all the way from the time that an applicant hits that first submit button on their application, all the way to when they have commenced operations. Again, some takeaways from this is that there are in the commence operations column, which is all the way to the right. And again, you want to move in this slide, applicants want to move from left to right, which is essentially the licensing process is left to right. But commence operations, we do now have 10 marijuana courier licensees that have received commence operations notices. Also 10 delivery operator licensees that have commenced operations notices. There are 338 retail licensees that have received commence operations notices. Other than that, happy to answer any questions that you might have on this slide, but this is the regular data, regular slide that has been brought to you over the past couple of months.
Thank you, Director Potvin. Are there any questions from my fellow commissioners?
I believe at that point, that is the last slide for data for today. If you can go to the next slide, please. And now, with your permission, Madam Chair, I will now turn it over to Doug.
Thank you.
Thank you, Thank you, Director Potvin, and thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Apologies for my jumping the gun earlier.
Oh, no, that was the acting chair doing that, but thank you.
So once again, we have 3 proposed changes of ownership today for the Commission's consideration. The first up here is Aspen Blue Cultures Incorporated. The licensee here is Aspen Blue Cultures. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 3 adult use licenses and are requesting to add 1 individual and 1 entity. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. And therefore, Commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any questions about this change of ownership? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner Camargo, is there a motion to approve the change of ownership for Aspen Blue Cultures Incorporated?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Camargo, seconded by Commissioner Roy. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. 4 in favor, none opposed. Eric?
Thank you, Chair. Next up, we have Beachgrass Topicals LLC. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 1 adult use license and are requesting to add 2 individuals. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. And therefore, Commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request. And if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this change of ownership? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner Roy, is there a motion to approve the change of ownership for Beachgrass Topicals LLC?
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Roy, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye, 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek?
Thank you, Chair. The next licensee here is Green Care Collective LLC, doing business as Plant. They're seeking a change of ownership and control of 2 adult use licenses and are requesting to add 3 individuals. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend review and decision on this request, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any questions on Green Care Collective LLC? Seeing none, Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to approve the change of ownership for Green Care Collective LLC, doing business as planned?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins and seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek?
Thank you, Chair. Next up, we have staff recommendations on license renewals. Today, we have 61 license renewal recommendations for the Commission's consideration. Commission staff recommend review and decision on the renewal applications before you, and if approved, request the approval be subject to the licensee remaining in compliance with the Commission's regulations, applicable law.
So before going into the vote on renewals, I wanted to give Commissioner Stebbins the opportunity. I understand that there are some comments that you want to make in terms of the renewal process and the licensees.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. And again, I want to express my thanks to the licensing team for the great work that they do. I know Commissioner Camargo always says renewals are where it's at. But for quite some time, I've been reviewing our roster of renewals, especially those who have commenced operations and are starting to build out their track record. That's why you may be seeing me offer more conditions for license renewal applicants. Couple of renewals this month I'd like to highlight. First of all, 15 March. So excited in their application to see this licensee's passion for the history of the property that they have redeveloped in Greenfield. I've always appreciated the economic development opportunities with the industry. They're working toward their diversity goals and hiring 25% of their employees from Greenfield, which is a DI community. LeafLux, posting 87% of their employees from DI communities and hitting their targets when it comes to minority LGBTQ plus and disabled citizen hiring. In Good Health, hitting 66% diverse hires and highlighted 14 of their 21 promotions were for diverse candidates. Our statute and regulations place such a strong emphasis on our licensees creating and executing positive impact plans to support those individuals and those communities that were adversely impacted by cannabis prohibition, as well as creating opportunities for diverse populations throughout the Commonwealth. Many renewal applicants show progress towards meeting their goals, and some even pivot their plans appropriately, but may be missing certain targets. I think there's some more work here that remains to be done. I appreciate that these two component requirements are unique to this industry, and we should also appreciate that some small operators may lack the support or the resources to adequately pursue their objectives. But when Commissioner Camargo and I first arrived, we created a diversity guidance document with our team that really helped direct our licensees to adapt strategies to meet commission expectations. And I think as we sit here now in the start of 2024, I'm excited to see that many of those suggestions, many of those ideas are being incorporated in diversity plans of new applicants. I'm happy that our licensing team, who I know has many thoughts on ideas on this topic, is excited to see how we might be able to streamline some of the reporting so it's consistent, create some easy templates for our licensees to use. We also know that there are regulations on the books that have created leadership ratings to recognize our licensees, and in particular for local hiring. I know that our team is interested in bringing that to fruition for our licensees to use. In the meantime, as again, I think we see varied results. I think we see licensees really making an aggressive effort to reach their diversity goals. I think there's some work that we might be able to do around hosting some discussion with experts that could offer technical expertise in reaching diversity goals and sharing best practices. But I want to highlight, because I think it's important work that we should keep focused on going forward. It's a unique requirement, but I want us to keep the industry focused on trying to achieve that success, and I think there is a role for the commission to play. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to kind of share some thoughts on that.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. So this, the renewal roster will be broken into a few different things, because Commissioner Stebbins, I understand you have conditions on 17 Be Well Organic Medicine Incorporated, 34 Good Fields Incorporated, and 55 Turning Leaf Centers Northampton.
Correct.
That's okay. So the first roster, Commissioner Camargo, is there a motion to approve the renewal roster for items 1 through 16, 18 through 33, 35 through 54, and 56 through 61?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Camargo and seconded by Commissioner Roy. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. The next item we have is item 17, which is Be Well Organic Medicine Incorporated. Commissioner Stebbins, can you please list the condition that you have for this license?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. My proposed condition for Be Well Organic Medicine is within 30 business days of license renewal, consider revision to your positive impact plan goal number 1, and consider hiring or other strategies to impact disproportionately impacted area designated communities of Lawrence, and Haverhill in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1011A11 and 935 CMR 500.1034B, and provide any update to the CCC licensing division. This, as I understand, is their license application for a retail facility in Merrimack. They've offered some updates to their positive impact plan. I'm kind of just raising a caution flag or raising an invitation for them to consider their changes to their positive impact plan, because Merrimack is close by to Lawrence and Haverhill. Probably since they created their positive impact plan, we've added Lawrence to our list of disproportionately impacted communities, and again, would invite them to consider some different strategies.
Commissioner Stebbins, do you mind restating first? Thank you. Thank you for explaining that and sort of adding more clarity to the condition itself. Would you mind stating the language of the condition for the record so we all have that top of mind?
Sure. Again, the proposed condition is within 30 business days of license renewal, consider revision to positive impact plan goal number 1, and consider hiring or other strategies to impact disproportionately impacted area designated communities of Lawrence and Haverhill in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1011A11 and 935 CMR 500.1034B, and provide any update to the CCC licensing division.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Are there any additional conditions for this renewal? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Roy, is there a motion to approve the renewal of Be Well Organic Medicine Incorporated, MRR 206702, subject to the condition articulated by Commissioner Stebbins?
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Roy and seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. The next item is number 34, Good Feels Incorporated, MPR 244106. Commissioner Stebbins, can you please provide the condition?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. The proposed condition is within 30 business days of license renewal, contact CCC licensing division and consider an update to identify any goals for utilizing business enterprises operated by persons with disabilities and LGBTQ plus people under licensee's diversity plan goal number 3 in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1011C8K. Just a quick explanation for this condition. Again, very thoughtful diversity plan. They talk about the goal of utilizing diverse vendors and just asking whether they would consider among their goals any opportunity for also including business enterprises operated by persons with disabilities and LGBTQ plus people.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Are there any additional conditions for this? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to approve the renewal of Good Feels MPR 244106, subject to the conditions articulated by Commissioner Stebbins?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins and seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. And finally, we have item 55, which is Turning Leaf Centers Northampton LLC, MRR 206633. Commissioner Stebbins?
Sure. Thank you, Chair. My proposed condition is within 30 business days of license renewal, contact CCC licensing division with an update to confirm your training and recruitment partners and eligibility to support your activities in accordance with 935 CMR 500.1011C8K. Again, this is part of their diversity plan, and again, they highlight their interest in working with our mass hire centers, which again, we know today are not eligible to support their recruitment activities. So just to point that out, again, not wanting to set anybody up for failure at their next renewal point, but if there are folks they want to add that could help them with their recruitment, certainly something they should explore, but just want to confirm that mass hire may not be part of their equation.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Are there any additional conditions? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Camargo, is there a motion? We have a motion to approve the renewal of Turning Leaf Centers Northampton LLC MRR 206633, subject to the conditions articulated by Commissioner Stebbins.
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Camargo and seconded by Commissioner Roy. I'll now do a poll of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. I will now hand it back over to Derek Chamberlain.
Thank you, Chair. Next up, we have staff recommendations for provisional licenses. Today, there are 6 provisional licenses for the Commission's recommendation. And additionally, I'd like to highlight that half of these identify as a women-owned business. Commission staff do recommend review and decision on these provisional licenses. First up, the applicant here is ARL Healthcare Incorporated. Proposed location is 216 City Drive, located in Quincy, Massachusetts. They're seeking a retail license and they received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. I did not see any conditions on this provisional license application, but are there any conditions or questions, Commissioner Roy?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I didn't put a condition, but first of all, I just want to reiterate, I've put this condition in the past, but I just want to, I looked at goal number 2 of their positive impact plan, and we applaud internships. It's to provide an internship training program for individuals who are Massachusetts residents of DIA communities, specifically Quincy, Braintree, and that's wonderful. I just want to remind them that according to regulations, prior to performing job functions at a marijuana establishment, all internship program participants must become registered agents in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and provide agent registration card to the Commission upon request pursuant to 935 CMR 530. A marijuana establishment shall apply for registration for all its employees, owners, executives, and volunteers who are associated with that ME. So this is just a friendly reminder to them for their internship program.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. With that said, Commissioner Roy, please have a motion to approve the provisional license for ARL Healthcare Incorporated, MRN 284873.
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Roy and seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor and none opposed. Eric?
Thank you, Chair. Next up, the applicant here is Arrow 31 LLC. The proposed location is 222 Beacon Street, Units 2-3, located in Marblehead, Massachusetts. They're seeking a retail license. This applicant received general review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. Are there any comments or conditions for this provisional license application? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to approve the provisional license for Arrow 31 LLC MRN 284775?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins and seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek?
Thank you, Chair. Next up, the applicant here is Cloud Farming LLC. The proposed location is 50 Condor Street, located in Boston. They're seeking a microbusiness license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. Commissioner Camargo, can we please have a motion to approve the provisional license for Cloud Farming LLC, MBN 281350?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Camargo, seconded by Commissioner Roy. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Next up is Fusion Drop LLC. The proposed location here is 356 South Avenue, units 4B and 6, located in Whitman, Massachusetts. They're seeking a product manufacturing license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. And therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. I believe there is a condition from Commissioner Roy on this provisional license application. Please, Commissioner Roy.
Thank you. And congratulations, as Derek alluded to, women-owned. The next 3, Fusion Drops, Uma Flowers, and Which City are all women-owned. So that's wonderful. My condition is for Fusion Drops LLC. Prior to final licensure, please inform the Commission of your additional operational plans for product manufacturers as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500-130 5K and 935 CMR 500-139. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional conditions or comments on this license application? All right, seeing none. Commissioner Roy, can we please have a motion to approve the provisional license for Fusion Drop LLC, MPN 282269, subject to the conditions articulated by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Roy, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Next up, the applicant here is Uma Flowers Waltham LLC. The proposed location is 196 Bear Hill Road, located in Waltham. They're seeking a retail license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration, and therefore Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Okay. So on this provisional license application, there are comments from both Commissioner Roy and Commissioner Stebbins. Commissioner Roy, do you can you please provide your conditions?
Sure. For Uma Flowers Waltham LLC, prior to final licensure in accordance with 935 CMR 500-146G. Please include the phone number for the Massachusetts Substance Use Helpline on your consumer education.
Thank you. Commissioner Stebbins?
Sure. Chair, my proposed condition is prior to final application for licensure, contact CCC licensing division and provide an update to identify any strategy for including LGBTQ plus residents under licensee's diversity plan goal number 2 in accordance with 935 CMR 500.101 C8K.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins. Are there any additional comments or conditions for this provisional license application? Okay, seeing none. Commissioner Stebbins, I now seek a motion to approve the provisional license for Uma Flowers Waltham LLC, MRN 284983, subject to the conditions articulated by Commissioner Roy and Commissioner Stebbins.
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Last up, the applicant here is Which City Gardens LLC. Proposed location is 2 Bridge Street, located in Salem, Massachusetts. They're seeking a cultivation license, and this applicant received expedited review. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. I believe there is a condition from Commissioner Roy.
Yep, thank you. For Which City Gardens LLC, prior to final licensure, please inform the commission of your additional operational plans for indoor marijuana cultivators as it relates to quality control samples in accordance with 935 CMR 500-12012 and 935 CMR 500-12014. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Camargo, is there a motion to approve the provisional license for Which City Gardens LLC MCN 283839, subject to the conditions articulated by Commissioner Roy?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Camargo, seconded by Commissioner Roy. I will now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor and none opposed. Derek.
Thank you, Chair. Could advance to slide 1. Thank you. Next up on the agenda is staff recommendations for final licensure. We have 7 final license recommendations, and commission staff recommend review and decision on these final licenses, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions for the board.
Thank you, Derek. And you can tell it's a new year, because I'm sure we do this as a roster whenever we're doing final license, but I just want to confirm it before I do this as well.
Yes, that's correct. These are done as a batch.
All right. Commissioner Roy, is there a motion to approve the final license roster?
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Roy, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I will now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye, and congratulations to all those final licenses. It's the beginning of the year, so I'm sure they're excited. So just aye and congrats.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye and ditto.
The chair votes aye and ditto as well. Congratulations to everyone on their final.
Congratulations.
licenses. This is a major milestone, so congratulations. Thank you. Derek, please.
Thank you, Chair. Next up, we have staff recommendations for responsible vendor training renewals. As you can see, there are 3 RVT renewal recommendations for the Commission's consideration today. And Commission staff do therefore recommend review and decision on these renewals, and if approved, do request your approval be subject to the conditions before you. That said, first up, we have Bud Education. The certified RVT here is Bud Education. They're seeking to renew and be approved for another 2-year certification to provide basic core curriculum training in the Responsible Vendor Training Program. They currently provide virtual training environments, and over the past 2 years, they've provided instruction for 5,421 marijuana establishment and medical marijuana treatment center agents. Therefore, Commission staff recommend Commission approval of this renewal, subject to those conditions.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any comments or conditions for this responsible vendor training renewal?
I just have a question
Commissioner Roy.
at the end of
Oh,
our votes
okay.
regarding RVT in general.
Okay.
At the end.
Okay. Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner Camargo, are there any comments or conditions? Okay. Seeing none, Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to approve the responsible vending training renewal for Bud Education RVR 453144?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek?
Thank you, Chair. Next up, the certified RVT here is Green Flower Incorporated. They're seeking to renew and be approved for another 2-year certification to provide basic core curriculum training in the Responsible Vendor Training Program. They currently provide virtual training environments, and over the past 2 years, they provided instruction for 1,582 marijuana establishment and medical marijuana treatment center agents. Therefore, Commission staff recommend Commission approval of this renewal, subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any comments or conditions for this responsible vendor training renewal? Okay, seeing none, Commissioner Camargo, is there a motion to approve the responsible vendor training renewal for Green Flower Incorporated RVR 453142?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Camargo, seconded by Commissioner Roy. Commissioner Camargo? Now we'll call the roll.
Aye.
Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Derek?
Thank you, Chair. Last up today, the certified RVT here is Leafy Green Agency LLC. They're seeking to renew and be approved for another 2-year certification to provide basic core curriculum training in the Responsible Vendor Training Program. They currently provide both in-person and virtual training environments. And over the last 2 years, they provided instruction for 431 marijuana establishment and medical marijuana treatment center agents. Therefore, commission staff recommend commission approval of this renewal subject to those conditions before you.
Thank you, Derek. Are there any questions, comments? Okay. Seeing none, Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to approve the responsible vending training renewal for Leafy Green Agency LLC RVR 453143?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo,
Aye.
Commissioner Roy,
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Commissioner Roy, I'll hand the floor over to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And my question is for Director Potvin, and I just want to thank you because we've had discussions around identifying with the Supplier Diversity Office who's certified for RVT, and I want to thank you. I think a survey went out to all the RVT trainers. I was wondering if you could just provide us an update where that's at.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. A notification went out to all certified RVTs and all current applicants that had at least an application open. So it was a bigger population. Letting them know about the commission adopting a policy for identification of if any business or any individual was certified by the SDO, not only as a woman, minority, or veteran-owned business, but we expanded it to also be every single type of certification that the SDO offers. Those include LGBTQ+ owned businesses, Portuguese-owned businesses is another certification, and I see you smiling because of our South Coast.
Yes, right.
And I believe, and they have minority. There's a couple other ones, and I can't think of what they are, but some of them are hybrids, like minority veteran-owned or disabled veteran-owned businesses. But because there's no additional benefit going to them through policy, like the policies that the commission has through regulations for fee waivers, expedited review for applicants and licensees, we thought we could expand it because all we're doing is going to identify them on the website,
Right.
and help them one identify them, but also at the same time have the added benefit of pointing applicants and licensees to that page to be able to use that as a resource to build out some of their goals around their diversity plans. That went out, I believe, in June, and we gave everybody a 60-day, and I'm not positive on the date, but the notification, I believe, went out in June, and we gave them a 60-day window for anybody who wanted to supply that actual SDO certification before we amended anything on our website. And the rationale behind that was to make sure that nobody got a preemptive benefit if they answered quickly. So we would wait until the end of the 60-day period, and then anybody that submitted it, we would do a wholesale update with our communications team at that point, and on a rolling basis afterwards, as we got them, we would add them. The answer to your question is we've received one.
Really?
Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes. And I knew that answer, and luckily for me, our licensing manager, Annie Damari, who oversees the Responsible Vendor Training Program, also wanted to remind me that it is still one.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that effort. And if it's one, it's one.
And hopefully it's one right now. And if anything, to plug this, to use this as an opportunity, this is something that we will continue to do. We will continue to facilitate. If you get an SEO certification, please let us know. We will identify you on our website. And this will also eventually get built into our RVT applications as a section so that we automate it. So it's not a manual process, and they could do it either in their initial application or on renewal.
Awesome. Thank you.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Thank you, and thanks to Annie and the team for doing all that work. it did remind me that I think I did come across a renewal who might have used that one SDO certified vendor. However, I'll have to go back and look at my notes, and if to that licensee, if you're out there, if you think this was you, reach out to our licensing team. I think they were trying to incorporate it under their diverse vendor use. However, they might have suggested that that RVT trainer offered diversity training. Those are two different things, right? RVT training and diversity training. So might want some clarification as to how that's meeting one of their goals, but I'll get those notes back to Annie. And again, if you're a licensee out there listening and you think that might be you, we can hopefully help you clarify that. So, but thank you. Thanks for all the work on this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do want to make a correction because, again, our team is so diligent and so dedicated that I was just fact checked.
Oh my God.
And rightfully so. And thank you to our Director of Communications, Mary Alice Curley. It is that notice went out on August 25th. So it wasn't June, it wasn't end of June, it was August 25th, which then we gave a 2-month period from that. And we still did receive one. I think also, in my appreciation to Mary Alice, thank you. I want to make sure I'm giving the right information to the commission. Based on how we rolled this out to offer this opportunity for identification, we did base it on as much concrete information as we could. And like, we use the Supply Diversity Office for their expertise and their certification process of the kind of legal definitions of a woman-owned, minority-owned, veteran-owned business. I don't think we want to overshadow or overlook the fact that there are businesses and people and sole proprietorships that could, in fact, could be defined as woman-owned, veteran-owned, minority-owned business, but choose not to go through the SDO process. So while we have our factors for compliance on how we identify those populations and how we're going to pick who we put up on our website so that we're not being arbitrary about it, I don't think we should overlook those businesses that have not chosen to go through the SDO office that still could be satisfied through a diversity plan. An RVT owner, a sole proprietorship, a woman-owned business that I'm not going to get SDO certified, and they go and they pick that woman-owned business that's an RVT, that's a woman-owned business, right? So let's applaud that. Let's still promote that. So just wanted to put that in as well.
Thank you, Director Poppin.
Thank you.
We'll go, Eric Chamberlain. Were there any additional comments that you wish to make before concluding the licensing process?
Certainly. Thank you, Chair. As I do each time, I certainly would not be here today without a tremendous amount of help from the staff here, as everyone's alluded to. So first and foremost, I'd like to thank you, Chair, and the commissioners for having me today. I'd also like to thank our Acting Chief of Investigations and Enforcement, our Director of Licensing for allowing me to present the licensing materials today, and certainly acknowledge all of the hard work done by investigations and enforcement staff, as well as across the commission to put this presentation on today. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Derek. Okay, so that moves us into commission discussion and votes. And this is the big item here, the model HCA review and discussion. So I will go back to Director Poffin to sort of walk us through what we have today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If we could go to the next slide. I'll give kind of a preview before I go into this, but these are some high-level bullet points around the model HCA. This is a project that, based on the discussions of the commission during the regulatory process, the fact that it was in Chapter 180, the fact that the commission put it in its regulations that it wanted to have, in fact, a model HCA that was available to the public for consumption for use. This is a project that we try to get ahead of in investigations and enforcement and other staff as well, as early as possible. This is a project that's been worked on probably in some way, shape, or form for about 6 months. But obviously it wasn't a priority until the regulations were finalized We didn't know what the model HCA needed to have as conditions until the regulations and the policies were finally adopted in October of 2023. So that's where we got a lot of the framework started. We did a lot of review of HCAs that are out in the industry that have been used, whether you would call them good HCAs or bad HCAs or indifferent HCAs, whatever it may be. We read a lot of them. We did a lot of them in the working group for HCAs. But I can say that a lot of the people that were invested in this project of developing an HCA definitely did another more than cursory review of those. This document, while it is in Chapter 180 and it is also in our regulations as something that we, as a body, as a commission body, you planned on wanting to have and made available to the public, there's a couple of different components to this. One, again, this was said during the regulatory cycle, this is a contract. And if you get two parties in the room, whether they have any legal experience or not, getting to an agreement is sometimes not the easiest thing in the world. So trying to draft what is the ideal agreement that we want people to use is even more difficult because we're trying to look from different perspectives. And I can say that the individuals and the team members that worked on this did in fact try to do that. The other thing about this document is that we wanted it to make, we didn't want to draft a model HCA for the sake of drafting a document. We want this document to be used or utilized. We want it to be functional. We want it to be something that you could take off our website if you had no access to attorneys, no access to capital, and you wanted to go and have something and be armed with something and go to a municipality and say, here's the agreement. It's already done. I signed it. Can you sign it back? We wanted to give that opportunity, especially to those who do not have those traditional access to resources as others may have. So we wanted it to be functional. We wanted it to be simple. We wanted it to be a fill in the blank type of document for anybody to use. Going over some of these bullet points is the model HCA is intended to illustrate a compliant HCA, a host community agreement between MEs and MTCs and municipalities based on your current drafted and promulgated regulations from October. This template can be used by applicants, licensees, and municipalities in the following ways. It could be a fill in the blank brand new agreement. So a new applicant going to a municipality, walking in the door, asking them to give them permission to operate in there and sign this HCA and operate in their municipality. Here you go, fill in the blanks. It could be a template that can be used and modified based on parties' agreements. So for example, here's an example of what we consider to be a compliant HCA. We know you might want to add other conditions based on maybe your municipality's bylaws or ordinances, or maybe the applicant or licensee wants to put in terms and conditions that are favorable to their side. They could then modify that document, use that as like the boilerplate, and then add those miscellaneous provisions in for review by the commission. The big one too that there was just a recent conversation about is number 3, and this is in regulations, and it was talked about a lot in our working group. And it was talked about a lot based on the situation of all of our legacy licensees and municipalities that are out there that have current HCAs. There is, speaking anecdotally, there's definitely going to be a population of HCAs that will not comply with these newly promulgated regulations in some way, shape, or form. The commission took a wholesale look at the power they were given through Chapter 180, and they drafted regulations in accordance with that. There's going to be some provisions that may not be now compliant. What happens to a licensee who is now required to submit an HCA for commission approval and certification after March 1st? What happens if it's not compliant? There is built into the commission's regulations about equitable relief options, but this is also, I think, a viable option that this model HCA can serve for those constituencies. It can serve as an interim agreement. And when I say interim, it's important to note this concept. It basically would supplant the previous contract. It would be a short term or based on whatever duration the parties wanted to agree to. It could be used to get the licensee and the municipality in compliance during a duration where they could submit that model HCA, executed model HCA that's now compliant, replacing the previous contract, be able to submit that to the commission, be able to get renewed because they have an active compliant HCA after March 1st, and then come back to the table and do more active and elongated, if needed, conversations and negotiations over what would essentially be an amended HCA afterwards. But this could serve as kind of that middle ground situation of getting licensees that are operating out in the industry and need to renew and might not have a compliant HCA. This is a tool that can be utilized. It's a quick tool that can be utilized based on whatever duration the parties agree to get them past that point of renewing. And then they could go back to the table and they would have more time to do what might necessarily be needed, which is more negotiations. There is a presumption that HCAs that conform with this model HCA, there is a presumption that those agreements are compliant. If it's not exactly used, if it's, you know, maybe a term like a versus an or the versus with or something like that, I think that would still probably, and these are things that staff still need to work out in our standard operating procedures. I think those would still have the presumption of being a compliant HCA. But if you add a whole new term or you change a whole new term to be something opposite of what it is, and it may not now comply with the regulations, that presumption is rebutted and the whole contract needs to be assessed. But if you were to use this and use the majority of it without any substantial or material changes, there is a presumption that this HCA will, using this model HCA, will be a compliant HCA. Other things that I would say that I think I want to bring out, and I want to thank our Director of Communications, Mary Alice Curley, who gave me some information and had a really robust conversation with me and Tim Caputo over the past couple of days about this conversation here and trying to flesh this out a little bit. She really armed me and really got me to a point where there were some critical pieces of information I think it's important to bring out here for the public. This is not a mandatory form. This is not something that the parties, that applicants, licensees, and municipalities have to use. It's also not legal advice by the commission. It's a contract, it's a template, it's legal because it's a contract, but it has to be freely exercised and executed by the parties with or without their own independent counsel. That's a choice for them. But it's not something they need to agree to. It's not a document they need to use. The parameters, the things, the elements in this contract, there's some boilerplate type contract language about successors and terms and duration and confidentiality, and there's typical contract-like terms and provisions into this contract. Should not come as a surprise to anybody. Other things that are in this model HCA for public consumption are trying to get to the core of what is the municipality authorizing this applicant or licensee to do in their municipality. What type of license are they allowing them to use? Do they require a location, or do they require them just to be compliant with local ordinances and bylaws, particularly zoning? There's a lot of things in here about security, about zoning, about making sure that they're being compliant with local ordinances and bylaws. There's also other aspects of here that I think staff really wanted to contribute to this model HCA that may not necessarily touch upon the newly promulgated HCA regulations, but went to the mission of this commission, and now with municipal equity being applied to municipalities and what the commission has always done with positive impact and diversity, and that being a requirement for applicants, there's a section in this model HCA that talks about diversity, equity, and local employment or local opportunities. again, this is a template, but we wanted to stress that this, while it's not required to be in an HCA, it goes to the mission of what everybody should be striving for. Kind of to what your point of Commissioner Stebbins, like this progress and success on renewals about positive impact and diversity plans. It's bringing it into another element, another piece of what we're dealing with. And we would encourage and we would hope that municipalities and licensees and applicants would touch upon this in their HCAs. While they're not required to, get ahead of it. It's only going to benefit everybody. So we do have a piece in that, a section in the model HCA about that. Next up is March 1st, 2024. That is the date that the commission and commission staff are going to start asking for and reviewing and certifying or sending notices of deficiency or request for information on HCAs. So if you are a licensed applicant and you press the submit button on your application, whether it was a first time you hit it or you got an RFI and you came back after March 1st and you hit it, we're now going to ask for an HCA. If you're a renewal, if you're a licensee and you're applying for a renewal and you hit that button, submit button at any point after March 1st, we're going to ask for a compliant HCA or HCA waiver, because that is an option as well. Why is this important? This is this is a normal piece of regulations implementation that happens every single time, is this timing period. There's so many different timing periods that go on. Why is this important? The public meeting in March, whenever that's scheduled for, the first Thursday in March, the applications that are being recommended to you for provisional licensure, 100% of them will not have a compliant HCA as part of their application. Why? Let me explain why. They got deemed complete 90, 60, 50 something days prior to that point, and they did not submit after March 1st. They went through the background check process, the municipal response process, and they were ready at a certain point to be recommended for the March meeting, but they didn't hit submit after that point. That could trickle into April. That could trickle into May, but I don't see that happening after May for new license applications. I think you'll start seeing a balance between those that have compliant HCAs that we needed to get and those that didn't. But I think after May of 2024, any new license applications being recommended to the commission we'll have to have and will be presented to you with a compliant HCA that's part of that package.
Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Director Pop. And I'm just fast forwarding now into March, April. I know how will we know in our board books, how will commissioners be aware that not all of them, like you said, if they submitted before, but the ones that have, like, will there an asterisk on the agenda? Is there some way, direct us where we can look at these and start to really take a deep dive once this has happened?
So what has normally happened in the past, and these have already been identified as deliverables that need to be modified, is your executive summaries.
Oh, okay.
So the executive summary right now, there's an element of the executive summary that says we confirm that the municipality and the applicant submitted an HCA certification form saying that they executed a host community agreement on said date. There will now need to be, that will need to stay there for a duration of time because of those that will still only have certification, but we'll have to come up with another kind of alternate provision in the executive summary that spells out the fact that we had either an HCA, a compliant HCA, or an HCA waiver, and there'll have to be some language about that. But already an identified deliverable. So that's how we were planning right now to indicate that to the commission.
And as a follow-up, so someone like highly curious, actually, like, if I want to look at the document myself, will it be in Mass CIP accessible for us to start to really look at these and get an understanding of what these compliant HCAs look like?
They essentially, the plan right now, and we the mock-up for that we just sent to JD Software last week. Modifies that section of the license application, the external facing, so it will, the same thing will show up on the internal facing. It modifies that language from there has been a change in the regulations. We no longer accept certifications. This is what we'll accept is HCA. So in that same area that you see that HCA certification, that's now where the HCA agreement
Contract will lie.
or HCA waiver will be. In addition to that, and this is going to another piece of implementation, which is surrounding data. Inevitably, I think a year from now, there might be the natural instinct to ask the question, how many licensees have HCAs? How many licensees have HCA waivers? So part of the mock-up that we sent to JD was putting in questions that have answers that are predetermined that they have to select. That once we have enough of them, that is information that either licensing or our data team can just extrapolate, take out of Mass CIP, do a data analysis and pop out a data figure to you. There are 70% of our applicants, our new applicants that have HCAs. 30% have HCA waivers. Of the 70% of those that have HCAs, 50% of them use the model HCA template. So that's the second question there. So we're trying to get ahead of that from a data analysis point too, but that will be in that section that you now see the HCA certification for.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
I do not see any other hands right now, so Director Poppin, please continue.
Thank you. So I just explained the situation with new applications and those that are being recommended to the commission, what you can expect come March, April, May for new applications that are being recommended for provisional licensure. Let me turn this upside down and now let me talk about renewals. So renewals are a little, they're going to be about the same, but a little different. So a renewal application based on your regulations, if it's submitted after March 1st, they have to have a compliant HCA or HCA waiver. So let's talk about the March meeting. All the recommendations for renewals for the March meeting will happen before March 1st. So 100% of the renewals you see in March will not have been asked for this. However, I would say that it's likely that versus the provisional license component, you will see probably a full swing to almost 100% in April's recommendations having to need a host community agreement or an HCA waiver, because from an efficiency standpoint, we try to recommend everything to the commission on renewals as quickly as possible. We don't have the same 90-day period app complete situation on renewals that we have on provisional licenses. With that being said, come April, I do see that there's a population of renewals that may not have a compliant HCA or HCA waiver. Let's say that staff makes their recommendations to the acting executive director on renewals for the March meeting. Let's say that we did that and there's 80 of them, 100 of them, and we submit that list on February 25th. There's still now, because it's a leap year, there's still now 4 days where somebody could submit their renewal application and won't be recommended until the April meeting, but that population is going to be small. So I just wanted to make the commission aware of that and put that out in the open for expectation purposes.
And thank you for alerting to us it's a leap year.
It was bound to happen, right? But that's generally, and that's generally everything on the model HCA. I know the public meeting materials were uploaded to the commission's website. I don't know if the documents there, I wasn't able to get to that point.
They are.
They are. Thank you. So the model HCA, the draft model HCA that's before you today is also on the commission's website in the public meeting packet. This again is not a simple thing to create a contract that suits many different purposes. So the staff did really try to look from a lot of different perspectives, and I cannot again say enough about all the staff that played a part, but significantly, general counsel team, enforcement counsel team, from Christina all the way down, from Rebecca all the way down. There were 10 attorneys in that document at some point or another, paralegals, other staff members. It is now with a member of our communications team for formatting purposes. Again, it's another beautiful example of everybody coming together to try to make this a reality and try to do the work that we all are trying to do pursuant to the mission. So thank you to them.
Thank you, Director Poppin. So before I'll say a few things just to give everyone sort of a lay of the land about what we're doing with this today. So we won't vote to finalize. The idea now is to give the public the opportunity to review, to offer any comments that they believe we should also hear, and maybe any changes that are recommended that should be incorporated within our model HCA. And Director Poppin, you and I spoke briefly before we came back from our recess. The thought now is to have a 2-week window, to give people the opportunity, any member of the public, any stakeholder, the opportunity to provide any sort of comments, any feedback within that span. And then our team will sort of review that. We'll be able to go through it. And then at our next meeting in February, have this brought back up so that we can finalize the HCA model. I'll stop there. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And that was one of my questions.
Okay.
So awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Director Poppin, and to all of the legal staff, enforcement counsel, everyone that contributed to this. You could see the work that went into this. And I just have a recommendation and I have a question. Which I could be either way. So when we look at on page 3, the authorized operations. So my understanding is we're going to ratify, approve this at our next meeting, right? Based on feedback and changes. So I guess, I know we don't have the framework for social consumption, but do we put something in, because this way we don't have to go back and ratify and approve again?
Madam Chair?
Yes, please, Director Poppin.
Great suggestion.
Okay.
That was an oversight to not have that license type there. The goal is with this is that we and one of the aspects I think that Chair and I think several commissioners might be on board with this, putting this out for a 2-week period of time, getting the input is not just on something like this, but also getting input from municipalities, stakeholders. But this is one of those things where it's like, oh, we want this document at a certain point to live and breathe on its own for a while. So one of those things is with social consumption, when it happens, we want this document to be readily available for that. So I will make that modification.
Thank you. And then in the micro business, you guys were great, all the different micro business options and the social consumption being one of them too. So when you do add it, and the micro business part as well, because they can apply for the social consumption. I don't know if you have to a line item it there and generally social consumption. I don't know how that would work.
So the current framework right now is that they are separate licenses. It doesn't act like
It's not tied.
it doesn't act like a delivery endorsement to a micro business.
Not linked. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and my other recommendation is maybe create a letter H. So on page 5, and the reason I say that is, and I'm so grateful that you stressed about this possibly being for those who don't have capital or don't have access to attorneys, an interim agreement, but it's not expressly stated in the document. I'm wondering if we add an H and we lift the language from 500-180D over and lift and shift it, or some version of it, that the party's option to proceed under an executed HCA that conforms with the commission's model post-community agreement to be relied on the interim until the parties come to an agreement. It's not expressly stated in this document anywhere, and I'm wondering if we should.
And thank you, Madam Chair. Mayor, can you do me a favor, Commissioner Roy?
Yeah.
Can you point to where you're looking at again and just restate that? And I apologize.
Yeah, no, I know. I just threw a ton out. So on the template.
Yep.
I'm on page 5 and I'm looking at if I'm recommending under G, we add an H.
So on the compliance section?
Yes,
Okay.
because this could be for a lot of folks an interim agreement. And I'm so glad that you took the time to explain, especially folks that don't have access to capital or attorneys. And it's just, it's not, I didn't see it unless I didn't see it, I don't see it listed that the parties could, as an option, proceed under an executed HCA that conforms with the commission's model host community agreement to be relied upon in the interim until the parties come to an agreement. Like, should we expressly state that in here in this document?
Director Potvin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that's a good idea. I think they would take probably some additional legal analysis, just because there's kind of like a catch-22 is like calling this an interim agreement, but this is the agreement. And this is acting as an interim agreement. We don't want to confuse certain things. So I think it's a good point. But where I think it would probably be more appropriate, or maybe just as an alternative, would be on page 8 under section 9.
Okay.
As maybe putting something in there about the possibility of it being an interim agreement on the effective date, term, and termination section. And I'm sure, again, too, as the public is listening, I'm sure they're going to have opinions on this too, and we're going to get comments left and right. I will, with the commission's approval, I will take that down as a suggestion, and I will add it to the bank of suggestions that we end up getting.
Yeah.
And consider it, if that's okay with you.
And my concern is, like, you laid it out so eloquently today, but for those aren't listening today, I just want to make sure they know that is available to them. And if it's expressly written, I don't want anybody to miss and not know.
I think, thank you, Commissioner Roy. Director Potvin, we tend to think a little bit similarly sometimes. So I just would want the input from our legal team, from the attorneys here, just because I want to make sure it's not having an impact on the effectiveness of the agreement if that term is inserted. So I agree with what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but I'm okay with it so long as, we have that legal review. Director Potvin, can you clarify where comments should be submitted? So for anyone who wishes to offer their opinion, offer any comments, what's the best place to give those?
Thank you, Chair. Thanks also again, because this is a team that does not sleep, apparently. Our Director of Communications, along with our team, have already a draft of some type of press release or bulletin or something that will potentially address how this is going to work, depending on how you are going to vote today.
Okay.
And I don't know for 100% certainty, but historically the comments have been sent to commission@cccmass.com. I'm making an assumption that that's the address, the email address that we're going to use for submissions, but information based on however you vote today, information about that will be forthcoming.
Okay, perfect. And like I said, we will not be voting today.
Okay.
And I know Christina and any of our legal team is here. I don't believe we need to make a motion at this point, and that can be reserved for the next meeting, but I just want to clarify that before we conclude or, solidify that. Hello, Madam General Counsel.
All right, good afternoon. What am I saying? Yeah, so a motion isn't required if you're not taking a motion to adopt the document as it's drafted. So you can just, put that out for public comment, and we can bring it back at a future meeting.
All right, perfect. Commissioner Roy?
So just to have a full understanding, so it's published publicly. The public will have an opportunity for 2 weeks to provide feedback. It goes to your teams to go call through that. And then, so then the next meeting in February, you based on all of that, bring us an updated template. And then we will vote to approve in February.
That is the plan, but Director Potvin, do you have any additional comments in response to Commissioner Roy?
Thank you. That is a possible plan. I think that makes sense. However, there might be other components here, and it's something I would like to make sure that the acting executive director has an opportunity to opine on how this is going to function, because this is her staff. But that does sound like a logical process right there, and that's what I could envision. But I want to make sure that Debbie is involved in that decision.
I see our acting executive director on screen, so I'll let you provide any feedback at this time if you wish to.
No comment, just further
Okay.
review at a later date. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Roy.
So if you're right, things come components. So if you need more time in our next meeting, in the March meeting my fear is the March meeting is the 7th, right? So maybe we need a second meeting.
It wouldn't, I know what you're thinking.
Second meeting in February, if you need it, and understandably, right, you might need more time. And if you do, then we would have to reconvene because we want to make sure this is approved, ratified before March 1. So we'd have to do a second meeting if needed.
You're
the
same way. Yep.
Okay.
Commissioner Stebbins,
You want to respond?
did you want to? I'm glad you asked that though, because it's not, I know people don't know we don't know what each other are thinking. I know the staff really doesn't know what we're thinking, and we want to get it right. We want to make sure that we're doing the work that needs to happen. So I think it's good that, Director Potvin and the entire team understand that we can have an additional meeting for this to make sure that we get it done.
If they need more time.
If they need more time. Commissioner Stebbins.
No, thank you, Chair. And Director Potvin, thank you, and all the members of our team that have been working on this. I did have the chance to share some thoughts with you on this this week, so I appreciated that opportunity. I'm also excited about the comment period. Again, the folks that are interested in this and want to weigh in on this might point out some things that they're not clear about. Again, we want to have a document that lives and breathes for a while and doesn't create any more confusion in the process. So having that feedback, I think, is critical. So I appreciate the 2-week, comment period. And I also think that's consistent with how we approached everything related to Chapter 180. We kind of went above and beyond what was required of us to get public input. So I think extending it here is also helpful. And you raise a great issue, Chair, for us to be flexible to either allow more time, or if we find we can speed it up a little bit, to have a meeting where we could just have this as an agenda item, give it our approval. Again, we're mindful of that March 1st date and don't want to cause any complications in advance of that. So, but thank you to Director Potvin. Thanks to the entire team, and excited to see what the industry, what the municipality feedback might be on this. And again, hopefully it gives us a better document at the end of the day. Not that it's not great already.
Director Potvin, is there anything else that you want to include in this presentation at this time, or anything else that needs to sort of be discussed before you wrap? You've had a lot today, so I know you do everyone does a lot of work behind the scenes, but today was a very Director Potvin focused conversation. So thank you.
On that note,
Yeah.
I have nothing else to say.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that means we are on to the next item. There's only 2 more today. The next one will be presented by our General Counsel, Christina Gasson, and it is the periodic review of executive session minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is before you today as we have a periodic review of executive session minutes. And under our processes, we review the universe of executive session minutes that have not yet been disclosed to determine whether continued non-disclosure is necessary. We currently have 24 sets of executive session minutes that are in this category, and legal is recommending the continued withholding of those documents. Legal's reviewed the rough draft of 2 executive session minutes and concerning a protective order that was issued in a specific case, the Correa case, and determined that the commission should not release these minutes because the protective order in that case is still in effect. Next, we had 6 sets of executive session minutes that pertain to litigation. Upon review, legal has determined that the purpose for those sets of minutes has not concluded, and that the disclosure of such minutes would have a detrimental effect on the commission's litigation position. And lastly, there is a continuing basis for withholding the 16 sets of minutes relevance to the governance executive sessions that were held in order to meet with the mediator. We were recommending the withholding of the production of these minutes until the final documents are completed. I want to thank my team, obviously, the council and administrative staff on my team for all of their work on these minutes, including this review. If the commission votes in favor of this recommendation today, the board would not review and approve any sets of executive session minutes at our next public meeting. And we would continue with the review, the production, and we would continue reviewing these at the next reviewed session. So we currently review these triennially. So we would reconsider whether the purpose had been, it continues to be to hold them enclosed and at that time.
Okay. Are there Commissioner Roy?
Thank you. Thank you, General Counsel Gasson. My question is around the September 14, 16 sets of minutes for mediation. Commissioner Stebbins had expressed earlier that there is somewhat of an urgency to get the governance document completed and ratified by this board prior to the job posting for the new executive director. So my question is, once we approve the governance document, does the purpose expire and therefore to withhold, and therefore those executive session meeting minutes for mediation, would they, if the purpose is expired with the ratification of the governance document, would those minutes be released in the next triennial review?
Yeah, so what we will do is, thank you, Commissioner Roy, for your question. What we would do is at the next triennial review, we'll take another look at all of these minutes and any additional minutes that have been completed at that time, determine whether the purpose is still in effect. So if the governance documents are in the process is completed at the next review date, which I believe would be in June or July of this year, then we would I would come back to the commission with a new recommendation at that time.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? So, Madam General Counsel, you are now seeking a motion to approve your recommendations?
Yes, so the motion language would be a motion to approve legal's recommendation to withhold the universe of executive session minutes until the next periodic review.
Thank you. Commissioner Roy, is there such a motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Stebbins, is there a second?
Second.
I'll now do a call the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Thank you so much, Christina.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the third and final item for commission discussion and votes is the election of commission secretary and treasurer. Now, I believe there are 2 commissioners, one for secretary and one for treasurer, who they both articulated their interest. Commissioner Camargo has expressed her interest in being the secretary, and Commissioner Roy has expressed her interest in being the treasurer. Commissioner Stebbins, I will ask you for the motion. Is there a motion to nominate Commissioner Camargo as the commission's secretary?
So moved.
Commissioner Roy, is there a second?
Second.
The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins, seconded by Commissioner Roy. I will now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo?
Aye.
Commissioner Roy?
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins?
Aye.
The chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. And I want to take a step back and apologize because I want to acknowledge the work. I just went right into that. I'm so sorry. You know, between, you know, Commissioner Camargo and her treasurer role, but Commissioner Roy, you and your role as secretary, if you want to offer sort of any comments, anything at this point, because you've gone above and beyond. You've made this a role that has really been on top of a lot of things, you know, in terms of making sure that we did all of our trainings on time, going through the minutes, meeting with the team.
Yeah.
So, you know, if there are any comments.
Thank you. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I just want to say it's been a real pleasure, an honor, and a joy to have served as secretary and to work with legal so closely. They were so short-staffed for so long, and they were what they were lacking in manpower, they had in willpower, and we got it done. We had so many meetings. Think about that in September and everything. There were so many in executive session minutes, and what we quickly approve takes hours and hours of work. So I want to, and the paralegals work so hard on this as well. So I just want to thank them. It's been an incredible joy for me to serve as secretary, and I'm going to make Commissioner Camargo a deal. I'll help train you. You help train me. How's that? That'd be really helpful, and I'll be there to support you
For sure.
when you get up and running. So thank you so much to my colleagues for electing me to serve as secretary, and I'm happy to pass the baton to Commissioner Camargo. And again, thank you so much to legal. It's been a real joy.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. Thank you for all of your work. Commissioner Stebbins, I don't know if you had any comments you wanted to make as a prior secretary as well.
No, thank you, Chair. My colleague has done an incredible job, took the position to a whole new level, and I can appreciate the great experience she had working with the legal team. I was lucky to have that same experience. So fantastic work.
Okay. And Commissioner Camargo, before I ask Commissioner Stebbins for a motion for the treasurer nomination, I also wanted to recognize the work that you've done in this capacity as well. Making sure you had regular meetings with our finance department and staff here, and preparing the commission for multiple budgets, you know, not just this year, but the prior year. Did you want to make any comments at this moment?
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be brief. I've served as a treasurer for the last 3 years, even though we're supposed to do this every year, but you know, it is what it is right now, right? So I'm very grateful to our finance team. I said this before, our former CFO, and everyone who was a part of it. I'm just grateful. It's been great to see the process behind the scenes, and you know, this year working with our executive director in terms of getting our budget where it needed to be in order to have our request for this year. And Commissioner Roy, absolutely, I'm happy to, you know, however I could be helpful, and vice versa. I know I have big shoes to fill, not just Commissioner Stebbins, but also yours. Yeah, and putting these positions together. So thank you. And again, I know it's a you know, once a year for all of us as commissioners, and we have to rotate. So I'm happy to serve, and I look forward to working with the legal team. Commissioner Roy, I know you kept us on our toes on the training, so I'm definitely going to try to keep that up. So thank you.
All right. With that said, Commissioner Stebbins, is there a motion to nominate Commissioner Roy as the commission's treasurer?
I will be happy to make that motion. I would also like to extend a offer or proposal. I would wonder if she'd be interested in having me. We don't have a junior treasurer position or assistant treasurer position, but we're going through a lot of transition right now with our administrative and budget team. And this is an area of this commission's work that I have not been as familiar with. And again, congratulate Commissioner Camargo on the great job she's done over the last 3 years. But I'd like the opportunity to kind of sit in alongside, but clearly recognizing her role as treasurer and not going to steal anything away from her. But
I would love a co-pilot.
okay, happy to move to nominate my colleague Commissioner Roy as the next treasurer for the commission.
Commissioner Camargo, is there a second?
A second, and I love that idea. So nice.
All right. The motion was made by Commissioner Stebbins, seconded by Commissioner Camargo. I'll now do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. There are 4 in favor, none opposed. Congratulations to you both. Okay. The next item is new business, the chair did not anticipate at time of posting. And I believe Commissioner Roy, you have some
Yeah,
comments.
we discussed this, and thank you so much, Madam Chair. There's actually three things I just want to, first, I want to thank you, Madam Chair. In your opening comments, you talked about prioritizing worker safety. I want to thank you for that. And it was a year ago, last January, as a body, we kind of talked about a hotline where folks could call in. So maybe we can revisit that at a future meeting, where that stands, if we're able to do that. If workers, they want to lodge a complaint or they're worried about their safety, that they can have a way to directly reach us. And I know we had talked about it, so maybe for new business, I just want to, add that, maybe flag it for a future meeting. And there's two other areas I want to flag for my colleagues. And I want to thank David O'Brien in the Cannabis Business Association, because these roundtables, we go out and we speak directly with these licensees, are so critical and so important, because we hear the challenges and the concerns that they have. And two have come up repeatedly, and I'd like to, at a future meeting, add the third-party transporter license. There are some significant issues that they're facing, and I know we talked about delivery, but there's standalone issues unique to the third-party transporter. And the other one is accounts receivable. We've been getting emails about this. This is a significant issue in the industry right now. It's putting a lot of strain and duress on licensees, and I'd like to flag it for a policy discussion at a future date.
Thank you, Commissioner Roy. Are there any comments, questions? Commissioner Camargo?
Yeah, yes, please. Thank you. Commissioner Roy, thank you so much for bringing third-party transporters up to the forefront now in January. I just want to say, so that I think we're all on the same page, but making sure we don't break open meeting law. Commissioner Stebbins and I have been talking to third-party transporters for the last, for a while now. And I know that they has sent us a very thorough two-pager last year, and I had mentioned it in the past. I would definitely encourage us to look at that. I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of the issues with the third-party transporters and some of the gray area that's happening right now. I think it's a good time to caution folks in the delivery industry that overlap with third-party transporters, and making sure that people are staying in their lanes and that they're reading the regs. So Commissioner Roy, however we figured it out, thank you for bringing that up. And I'm happy to share whatever information I do have from conversations that we have had with the third-party transporters in the past, because it is an issue. So thank you, and I'm looking forward to that conversation. So
Commissioner Roy?
So I'm wondering if we could kind of talk about it as a group, because this is our only opportunity.
yeah.
Who would sponsor that? Since Commissioner Camargo and Stebbins have been working together, should they sponsor that? And when, March, and I'd be happy to sponsor accounts receivable, if we could just talk about who's doing what and when we would do it, because this is the only opportunity we have to do this discussion.
Bajen la voz. If I may, sorry.
Go ahead,
Switching from Spanish to English. Commissioner Roy, let me think about it a little bit, and maybe Commissioner Stebbins and I can talk about it, but I will say this: we don't own it. We've just been having a lot of conversation with them, for a while now. So I got to think about it for myself in terms of just the workload, and I have social consumption. I have the delivery conversation that is sort of parallel. And third-party transporter, if no one's read the memo that they've sent, and sort of the constant emails that third-party transporters have sent and had conversations with them, there's definitely a lot of gray areas in third-party transporters. And I don't think, again, the license was created, it moves quickly, but I've been holding that one pager for the last year, so I know, and again, just being fully transparent here, there's a lot on the plate right now. So for me, I want to think about it. Let me talk to Commissioner Stebbins if that's okay. And then because I think that we need our team to review the regs for third-party transporters. We need to do a deep dive of the regs and sort of the issues that we're seeing on the ground, and that's going to take manpower internally. So I today don't want to say, yes, I'm going to put this on the agenda before speaking to the ED and speaking to our team, but third-party transporters needs an in-depth review. And for me, I also want to look at the economic empowerment, licensed life, and equity as well.
And I'll offer a couple comments. I know I saw your hand, Commissioner Stebbins, for your reply as well. Being mindful of what was outlined today around the staff, their capacity, and those and the implementation of the Chapter 180 changes too. So there's a balance. So I just wanted to make that one comment. Commissioner Stebbins.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thanks for thank Commissioner Roy for bringing up the topics that she did. Right, this is, again, we regurgitate this over and over. This is our only time to really talk about these things, and hopefully they're being respectful of the feedback and the comments, as Commissioner Roy alluded to, that we hear from the industry and we hear from folks that reach out to us. And I'm happy to circle back with Commissioner Camargo and talk through the third-party transporter policy issues that they've raised. The other suggestion I might throw out, I know we had a little conversation around this when we were talking through some delivery issues. There are not a lot of people in this third-party transporter space. And it might behoove us to actually invite them to come to a public meeting and spend some time talking to us about their issues. One, so we all hear it at the same time. It's the same message, and we have some chance to interact with them, again, in a more public way to think through what some of their challenges are. That might be a good first step, and Commissioner Camargo, happy to talk offline with you about it. But that way, right now, again, to your point, Chair, we're not taxing staff, we're not stretching resources and bandwidth that we might not have right now, but at least affording the opportunity for the holders of that license type to come in front of us. But
Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner Camargo, do you believe that you can have that conversation before our next meeting? So maybe we can have just a conversation about what our best next steps are.
Yeah. If I may.
Yes, please, Commissioner Camargo.
Yeah, I'm happy to have the conversation with Commissioner Stebbins, for sure. I'm just being very mindful of capacity, for myself. I'm trying to take care of myself this year, and for our team. But I think what Commissioner Stebbins is talking about could be helpful. I think that's a great idea, Commissioner Stebbins, because, all this time we've been sort of, myself and you have been communicating with them. We've been meeting with them. They've sent all of us the one pager. And it sounds like you have heard more about it on the during the roundtables. But I just want to be mindful. And, we all know this, whatever we say at these meetings becomes expectation to the industry.
That's right.
So I want to really manage expectations. But I think, Commissioner Stebbins, you and I should chat, and then maybe at the next meeting we can come back and report back through the executive director. But like I said, Commissioner Roy, first, thank you, but also, like, we don't own it, right? So I'm going to take some time to think about it and think about the capacity, and I will have, Madam Chair, I will do my homework, do my job to speak to Commissioner Stebbins about it from now into the next meeting, and then maybe we can report back. But I want to set the expectations for third-party transporters, because I know they're eagered. And every license type is eagered. We saw what happened in December with the delivery conversation. So, everyone is knocking on our door to revisit the particular regs for the particular licenses. So, I'm just trying to manage expectation and making sure we're mindful of capacity. But that was the long-winded way of saying yes, but I just wanted to share all that.
Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. Commissioner Roy?
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Camargo. And I know how hard you and Commissioner Stebbins are working on the framework for social consumption. So I'll avail myself. I would gladly take it on if you don't, and understandably, if you don't have the bandwidth, if you want me to be the sponsoring, because a little more responsibility falls on the sponsoring commissioner to do the work and present it to our colleagues. So I'd be more than happy to be the sponsoring commissioner around the third-party transporter and even the accounts receivable, because your workload is higher because of social consumption right now. So I'd gladly take that responsibility. If it would help expedite the process, I would gladly do that.
Commissioner Stebbins and Commissioner Camargo, I don't know if you have any reply or response to that.
I can. I want to piggyback off Commissioner Camargo's comments as well. And again, these are issues that we all hear about, and again, thinking through, I think as a first step, Commissioner Camargo and I can certainly have a conversation in advance and have some ideas to come back in the February meeting and think through some decisions and strategies going forward. But to Commissioner Camargo's point of keeping in mind that what we say here, don't want people running off with some crazy expectations. Let us think through these things. First of all, as everybody saw last year, the regulatory change process is not an overnight process. So there needs to be a lot of thoughtful consideration, but to Commissioner Camargo's points, let's be mindful of setting some expectations out there, and we can't get to everybody's issue, but at the same time, we understand folks in the industry, key stakeholders want to be heard. And when we think it gets to a level that we at least want to start to have the conversation, but that involves us talking to our team, it involves us talking to each other and looking at bandwidth. So I don't want to say slow and steady, but let's go with the first thought. Let's think through what an approach might be and something to talk about at the February meeting.
Okay. All right. Anything else before we wrap? No. All right. Okay, with that being said, do you mind putting the next meeting date up on the screen? All right, our next public meeting will be February 8th. This meeting will be remote, so we will be joining remotely. And then you see our 2024 tentative public meetings. If any of my fellow commissioners need to provide any sort of changes to that, I just ask that you connect with Director Giancola. And with that said, Happy New Year. Happy first meeting. Happy fourth year. Entering the fourth year now. And thank you, Commissioner Camargo. Happy MLK Day. That's right. It's around the corner on Monday.
Madam Chair?
Yes, please, Debbie.
I'm sorry. Can I just offer a quick apology to our licensing director, Kyle Potvin? I inadvertently or unintentionally changed his name earlier in the presentation, so I just wanted to offer an apology.
Go ahead, Director Hoffman. Is there a response?
Thank you, Debbie. It sounded really good though.
All right.
You're welcome. My apologies.
Okay, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
The motion. Okay, motion by Commissioner Camargo, seconded by Commissioner Stebbins. I'll do a call of the roll. Commissioner Camargo.
Aye.
Commissioner Roy.
Aye.
Commissioner Stebbins.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, 4 in favor, none opposed. We are done.
Record breaker or what?
There we go.
Yes, thank you.
See you all in February.